The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are not necessarily representative of the coalition or any other entity. This content is intended for mature audiences only.
What's going on, people? Welcome to Throwdown Your Questions, episode 127. I'm your host, Tony Polanco, and I'm joined by Emilio Lopez.
Throw down! What's up, people?
Brett Murdoch.
What's up, everybody?
And Carlos Romero.
What's up, people?
All right. Unfortunately, no Chris action. I don't know what's going on. Maybe he's saving, Texas from alien invasion. I don't know what's going on with him. Adam, yeah, go ahead.
I'm sure he's watching World Wrestling. No, he's not. Wrong.
Yeah, I know. Adam is though. That he'll be here
Adam
later.
is.
And Brian, who knows?
I live in the same state. I'm not defending any aliens unless they haven't reached me. But
well, they're not
warrior shit going on down there.
It's a secret invasion, man.
So does that mean everybody's a Skrull?
Yes. We had an epic comic book conversation before this show. By the way, we do have a winner for the contest, so we're gonna announce him at the end of the show. Suspense.
The suspense is killing me.
I mean, you already said him, so that narrows it down to like 97% of the audience.
97% of our audience is women. Come on, I mean, not men. I'm glad about the 3% women because before it used to be 1% women. So we're doing something right.
Progress.
What's up, ladies? How you doing?
Hello, ladies.
Hello, ladies.
Yeah, cue everybody being creepy.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh god.
Yo, man, you can't say hi to women, man. All right, man, let's get into it. Final stage boss in the house starts us off here. All right, if EA were to sell the Dead Space franchise, which publisher and developer would you like to see pick it up and reboot it?
For me, you know what? I'm gonna go a little off. I'm gonna say Ready at Dawn.
Interesting.
I would say Platinum. BioWare. No, BioWare actually.
I could see BioWare.
I can see BioWare doing it because space and all that.
Yeah, and for some reason, every time I play, like when I played Dead Space, I kind of thought of it kind of like as a Mass Effect game for some reason.
Interesting.
Like, the HUD was obviously different, but like it's a third-person shooter in space and kind of looks a little bit the same. I mean, but if they want to do a Dead Space, I mean, I'll say this: if BioWare wants to make a good Dead Space game, they need to step up their motion cap and stuff like that. But
yeah, I don't know, man. That Frostbite, like it seems like only DICE really masters it. Yeah. I'm gonna say this, man. This is gonna sound weird, but just bear with me. Give it to Capcom. Give it to the guys who are currently doing Resident Evil 7. That'll scare the fuck out of you, man. Well,
they'll just change the game to like a first-person game.
Hey, man, do what you got to do. It worked well for Resident Evil.
Yeah, but then we don't need two Resident Evils, though.
Yeah, well, do we need Space Resident Evil? We can.
Dead Space was essentially the first Dead Space was essentially Resident Evil 4, just in space. So,
I'm gonna throw out there what I think is the obvious answer. Give it to From Software.
And
let me explain that.
Yeah, explain that because I'm like, I don't see them doing a sci-fi game.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
They're great at building atmosphere, and they're great at telling a story without telling a story. And one of the beauties of the Dead Space series is that very kind of cryptic, slowly discovering like what the fuck is going on. And I think that could be really well told through environment. And I think From Software, especially Miyazaki is the master of telling a story through environment. So I would be really interested in, uncovering little tidbits about the Dead Space universe and how all of everything works. I mean, that was my favorite part of the series. I'll be honest. I slogged through a lot of the monster killing and jump scares just because I was like, what the fuck is up with this obelisk?
I mean, just finding out how nutty the unitologists were in that world.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right, I like those answers. All right, next question here. Again, we keep getting asked this for some reason. Don't you guys listen to the past shows? So he goes, this year has been amazing for games. The three biggest games so far for him are Horizon, Zelda, and Mass Effect. Which ones are you enjoying the most? Okay, I'm gonna give you the answer I gave you last time. Listen to the quarterly report for me and Carlos's answer to that one. We both picked Horizon. I know Chris picks Horizon too. I don't know what Adam's favorite game is so far this year. Manny, you have Gravity Rush, right?
I have Gravity Rush and Nier Automata.
Yeah, that's
Automata.
since we all answered, Brett, I give you the stage now, my friend. What is your favorite? Okay, what is the game you're enjoying the most? And please have that same energy that you have every time you tell me about this game.
Okay, I am absolutely loving the crap out of Zelda right now. It is okay. This game is basically being lauded as one of the 4 best games of all time, and I honestly could not agree with that more. I have not played a better game.
Highest rated games.
Excuse me. I have been having more fun with this game than I have with anything, excluding possibly the Dark Souls series in the last 10 years. I think it's a fundamental return to everything that I like about gaming. I love the fact that you get to the top and you get to the top of a tower, and what do you get? You get to see from the top of the tower. The game doesn't fucking spew mini-map icons at you everywhere. I love the sense of exploration that encourages. I love the fact that I'm hours into the game and I'm still finding new mechanics. I just found out the fact that I can shield surf. So now I feel that every time I see a giant snowy mountain, I'm like, oh man, I need to climb that mountain. Not for any particular reason, but other than the fact that I'm finding it fun. And it's a really kind of novel experience for me to be finding a lot of fun in a game, doing activities just for the sake of really enjoying doing those activities. And it's the immense amount of freedom and the way that all of these tiny mechanics work together in conjunction. The fact that I can approach any situation as if it were an Assassin's Creed game, but I have more freedom. I can sneak to the top of a ledge. I can throw bombs down. I can cut a tree down, set it on fire, and kick it down a hill. Like, I could approach any game in almost any situation with either brute force or almost no fighting. And the fact that the game wasn't necessarily forcing me into any specific path, that it allowed me the freedom as a gamer, and it trusted me as a gamer to be able to find and make these decisions on my own. Like, I finally feel like I've been in an amusement park this whole time, and somebody finally quit holding my hand. And now I have free run of the landscape, and I can do whatever I want. I can break any mechanic I want. I can take advantage and basically cheat the system if I want. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because it's puzzle solving at its finest in an organic fashion. I love the open world. I even love the weapon fragility system, as Tony puts it. I go into every fight like a kung fu fucking master. Like, I'm throwing clubs, lighting shit on fire, breaking things in people's faces. I take more weapons away from every fight than I walk in with. Constantly just bristling with high power weapons. I love the dodging out of the way, the flurry of the blow, the perfect dodge. I love the shield parry system, and that all these simple systems work and are woven into this tapestry gives me the kind of freedom that has honestly made me angry at other games. Like, I am super pissed at Horizon. Don't get me wrong, it's a very well polished, well made game, but it's the same spoon-fed trope shit that I've been eating for the last 12 fucking years. Every game has become Assassin's Creed, and Assassin's Creed is a great game, but I'm fucking sick of it. And I even love the fact that Nintendo went so far as to say, we want to break convention. And as soon as I heard that as a Zelda fan, like, I bristled, right? But then they go on to explain, like, they want to break convention as it's been in games. Like, the old Zelda worlds were split up into all these small areas. Do we really need that now, though? That was a technical limitation that was holding us back. Why not sew all of these into one giant expansive world that players can have? And it's honestly using exactly what I've been preaching. We fall into these video game tropes that are no longer even representational of the things that they were supposed to be representational of in the beginning. Things don't, fighting a robot doesn't feel like fighting a robot. Fighting a golem doesn't feel like fighting a golem. But in fucking Zelda, it does. I can jump onto the front of him and he grabs me and throws me off. I can shoot him with bomb arrows. I'm climbing his back like Shadow of Colossus and busting his back, busting the geode on his back with my specific mining sledgehammer. And of course it does more, at 15 or 12 or whatever minimal damage it does way more damage than my 30 plus axe because it's a mining tool and it makes sense. And nobody had to point any of this out to me. I'm just finding out all of these mechanics and all of these little surprises that you can do, all of these little Easter eggs. And it is one of the best gaming experiences I've had in years. And I realize, very specifically tailored to me. Not only does this game come on the back of certain changes in my life, but it is a game specifically tailored to and approached with the approach I would take to the game. They even made a 2D version of the game that is remarkably similar to the original NES Zelda. And they said, let's capture the spirit of that. Let's break all the conventions. Let's put in things that are fun. And they started playing around with it. And they made what, in my opinion, would be the closest thing to a sequel to the original NES Zelda. And don't get me wrong, A Link to the Past is one of my favorite games of all time. But the thing that they made, the experiment that they made, is the true successor to the NES version. And they took that and then built it with modern mechanics and those same freedoms in mind. So you could have honestly tailored a game.
You watched the GDC presentation, didn't you?
I did, and it was absolutely fascinating because at first I had thought,
I told you, man,
that that it was just all these mechanics came in, and I like how they played together, and I almost figured the success was accidental. But seeing the methodical approach that they took to this, it just honestly strikes me as a stroke of genius. It is approaching gaming from a fresh perspective that I have not seen in years, in stark contrast to Horizon, where you can only hide in the fucking sneaky grass for no fucking reason whatsoever. It's very clear you do this mini quest on this way, and you do this mini quest on this way, and oh, by the way, it feels about as rewarding to me as reading a novel. And that's fine if the narrative is good, but the narrative in Horizon didn't capture me. And I think we're relying too heavily on narrative, and I'm just realizing how important fun is in a video game. I hunt down fights just to be a badass kung fu master in Zelda for no other reason than I like hitting things with my sword. It is a rewarding and fun experience. And to play a game simply for it being fun, I am both reveling and shocked at how refreshing it is. And it's made me realize to a certain extent how bleak a lot of traditional console gaming has become. And it's, I have outlets in PC gaming, and I'm sure Brian would be the first one to point that out. There's lots of roguelikes and lots of survival games that are taking different approaches to gaming. But I didn't realize how pigeonholed console gaming has made me feel in the last few years until I got Zelda in my hands. So,
well, a lot of console gaming tends to be like Chris likes to say, very it's mandatory fun time, where it's like, this is where you're supposed to go. This is how many steps you need to get there. And, you can't break the system where it's like, okay, what if I don't want to go the way they say I should go?
Well,
I think that's also part of one of the things I like about Nier is that it doesn't say it says obviously there is that specific goal that you need to go to, but you can spend hours exploring the world and looking for all kinds of different hidden things, which I always like doing. But yeah, I definitely think that's what, at least with the Zelda game, it's like they built all these different systems that kind of these reactionary systems that, and then also making a game where you don't exactly need to follow there is obviously the end goal, which is obviously to beat Ganon, right? Mm-hmm. But how you get there is not told to you.
Yeah, it's like I said, strikingly similar. And I actually read a post in a discussion forum earlier today where somebody was saying that they couldn't get their hands on a Switch, so they went back and they played the original NES Zelda, and they were remarking on how hard it was, how there was so very little hand-holding, how there were all these hidden Easter eggs that almost seemed like they intentionally were almost never meant to be found. How the game, he went through a hard dungeon before he was supposed to go through an easy dungeon, did things in the wrong order, explored, got a bunch of stuff wrong, got killed 100 times. He's like, the game is hard. Enemies kill you. You get punished for doing things wrong, but you get rewarded for exploring. And it's like, I never realized what a great game this was.
Well, I mean, that's exactly what Miyamoto designed the original game too. Because, like, I mean, if you ever hear why he created Zelda, it's like he, as a child, he used to like, he used to live by like a huge forest, and what he used to like to do was always like explore the forest and find all kinds of different things. And that game was like a representation of that. Obviously, when he stopped making those games, they became, kind of what are the curated experiences. It's like, okay, now that you have the blah blah blah, now you need to go to here, and then now that you have that, you have to go to here.
And honestly, I think a lot of Zelda fans have dropped off. I know, a lot of people like Twilight Princess and a lot of people like Skyward Sword, but you've been losing a lot of the old school core audience, and I found it remarkable, at least in I'm subscribed to, and I hate to show how the magic's made. I'm on all the subreddits for all the different systems. So I'm watching these different communities react in these different ways. So it's really interesting to see how the people in the Nintendo community honestly seem to be people kind of about my age. And this experience is harkening back to everything from Ocarina of Time to the original Zelda. And so they seem to be, for a Japanese company, that's as close to an apology as you're going to get. Like they dramatically shifted gears and moved back towards their roots, and that strategy has really resonated with a lot of people, myself included. And it's nice, and this is the beautiful thing. Not only did I get a great Zelda game, but I got a Zelda game worthy of the nostalgia wash that comes with it. And don't get me wrong, just because I like Zelda doesn't mean you get a free pass. I fucking hated Twilight Princess. I hated that game. So it's not like just because it's a Zelda game, I like it, but this is a Zelda game worthy of those childhood memories. This harkens back to moving through screen after screen and cutting down shrubs just to see if there's a hidden stairwell there, and getting really excited when I found, a wall that you could obviously bomb out. It encourages that same sense of awe and wonder and fun that I experienced when I was a kid. And that, in my opinion, is just a towering achievement. So I cannot praise that game enough. And I know it's going to come across to a lot of people like, well, I'm just being a huge fanboy. But like I said, just because it's a Zelda game doesn't give it a free pass. I didn't play a lot of the Game Boy. Didn't fucking go out and buy a Game Boy so I could play the Game Boy games. It's when I was told that this game harkened back to Ocarina of Time is when my ears perked up. And the more I dug into it and the more I found out, the more excited I got. And then I played it, and I was, for once in my adult life, while riding the hype train, not disappointed. In fact, the game actually exceeded my expectations, even though I had become rabid excited for it at that point. So, hands down, Legend of Zelda.
Fucking awesome, man. Yeah, you really all that. Brett's been telling me about this game for the last 3 weeks, right? You perfectly captured it. Thank you for that. Fucking amazing.
All right, Brett, and all the sentiment that you gave to Zelda, like you can put that for me, but for Horizon.
Yeah. Same for me. I'm not trying to turn this into a Zelda podcast. I have a couple things to say, but yeah, it's a solid game, man. I think that the whole nostalgia thing is definitely lost on a guy like me, because I remember playing the very first Zelda on NES. I played that for about 5 minutes. I'm like, what the fuck is this shit? I don't know what's happening. Put Contra back on. I don't know what this is. I played Ocarina of Time on the 3DS in 2011. That was good. And then, so this is the second Zelda game I'm ever playing. So I don't really have anything to harken back on. I only have other open world games to, feed off of. And I'm like, yeah, it's missing all those nice little comforts that I like in other open world games. But at the same time, I appreciate the fact that it's like, fuck it, go do your own thing, have fun. So I definitely appreciate that. And I like the systems that play off each other, and I love the climbing shit. I'm playing Mass Effect, I'm playing Horizon. I'm like, yo, I can't climb
this fucking rock. I feel the same way, man.
Dude, I hope that becomes a mechanic in all games now. Like, I hope that becomes standard.
You know how like towers and open world games are standard? I want climbing to be standard in every fucking game. Get rid of those ledges, get rid of that bullshit. Just let me climb.
I'm like, I don't give a shit if you give me stamina. I just want to try to climb up something.
Yeah, exactly. Just give me the chance now. And my stamina is beast in Zelda. I can climb anything now. I don't give a fuck. It's great. All right. Go ahead, man.
One last thing. Like I find it interesting that Brett's saying that Zelda is kind of harkens back and like to the roots of gaming. I kind of feel like the opposite with Horizon. With Horizon, I feel like it's the evolution, like what people have been seeing. The evolution of games has become like the quintessential evolutionized game. Like it's got the graphics, it's got the big story, it's got all these new features that like people have all tried but somehow failed into like inculminating into their games. So when I see a game that incorporates everything, like the Assassin's Creeds, like all these other games, like the Heavenly Swords, like they've been trying to incorporate into their games, and some failed, some succeeded. I feel like Horizon succeeded in all aspects and all those tropes that it's been trying to do. So
I would disagree with that, actually. I would say that Apex, or that Horizon is the apex of everything that has worked in games put together. I personally own my beef on that. I'm not telling anybody Horizon is not a great game. It is a polished, amazing game made by a obviously very talented group of people. The problem is that evolution of games has become more and more constricting, in my opinion. So that's more me not enjoying the direction that everything has been going more than anything else. So it is the apex of everything that has worked so far. I was just ready to see something new. And again, I enjoy the old school, man. I enjoy the hard. I hate to say it like this. I enjoy the old school. I enjoy the hardcore. I enjoy you making me work and bleed for it, and I enjoy the bragging rights that come with it.
Yeah.
So,
by the way,
it's different play styles, man.
I laughed a little because one guy in the chat. Am I muted, by the way? No,
nope.
I'm not.
No.
One guy, Dad versus, he goes, "Hey, sounds like Brett's describing Neo." So you may want to get on Neo eventually, Brett.
Dude, I'm excited. If you're telling me it has these things in common, I'm on board.
There you go, man. All right, let's move on here. Okay, this isn't a question. It's just something I want to address from Mr. Goridi. Shout out to Sean Goridi, by the way. He's one of the Patreon supporters over on the Coalition. So thank you for that, man. He's white too, by the way. I just had to throw that in there. My little
by the way.
My little joke from the other day, he knows what I'm talking about, he goes, "Tony, a little piece of my soul died when you were talking about AAA JRPGs for 10 minutes and you didn't mention Ni no Kuni. Also, they may not be AAA, but shout out to Valkyria Chronicles and Azure Revolution." Sean, my deepest apologies, man. I really should have put Ni no Kuni.
Dude,
brilliant fucking game.
I had to be absent on that game because or absent on that one because I'm pretty sure I would have thrown out Ni no Kuni.
Yeah, Ni no Kuni, brilliant game, man. That's the game you want. It's like it's a fucking Miyazaki movie, but in JRPG form, and it does the Pokemon shit.
Dude, I was about to say, it's Pokemon made by Miyazaki. Like, what else do you want other than maybe some online competitive play?
Yeah. My only complaint. Beautiful, man. I'm gonna tell you right now, because I was at PSX, right? I liked all the shit they showed. I lost my fucking mind when they showed Ni no Kuni 2. I'm like, oh god, I was in my row. I lost my fucking shit. Like, yes, man.
You turned into Hip Hop Gamer.
Yeah, please let there be multiplayer in that game. Please let there be multiplayer in that game.
Oh, yeah, that's the game that I like. Out of all the games that I like regret not playing last gen, Ni no Kuni is definitely one of them.
Yeah, Ni no Kuni.
I have the game, but I've never actually got to play it. I just haven't had the time to.
Don't until you have the time, because that shit will.
That's the one issue. That's the one issue that I have with a lot of the games this generation. Like, I mean, it took me like 3 months to get through like Gravity Rush and like a Nier shit. I'm like, there's like 3 alternate endings. There's 3 alternate characters. I'm like, oh, and I'm still playing it, but it's just gonna be a slow roll.
Oh, dude, I'm the same way with Zelda. Like I get 2 hours here, 2 hours there. Like I have not put in nearly the 50 or 60 hours that Tony has. I'm probably sitting around. I'm thinking maybe the 10, 12 mark. Like, but I have not gotten anything done in that game. Like I am crawling through it with a fine-tooth comb. So I'm sitting here and being like, this is not a 40-hour game. This is a 200-hour game. Like I'm going to be playing this game for like fucking 6 months. It's going to just own my life.
I'm already on 50 hours of Nier, and I've only just over 50 hours. Excuse me, after 50 hours with Nier, and I'm only just got to the second portion of the game.
Oh God. Okay, that's next on my list, dude. I got that. I got the new Disgaea game. That I'm gonna get for the Switch because I don't want to get it for the PS4 at this point because fuck, I'd like to take a tactics game with me.
Heh.
Like that's old school RPG too. Like menus within menus within menus. Like that game has almost a ludicrous amount of depth. Like from what I understand, like you can get an item and then delve into that item to go down levels to help power it up so that you can change its attributes. And then if you find an item in that item, that you can go into that item too and go down to power its attributes so you can pull back out and it becomes a better item to power up your first item. Like I'm talking, if you like old school RPGs and menu navigating and like tweaking every little stat about every little thing, like this game will eat your face. So I plan to just sink so much time into that. Like between what I'm saying, between Zelda, Nier, and Disgaea, it sounds like I have a full year's worth of gaming in those 3 games alone.
Man, this year is ridiculous, bro. Like again, I have Nier and I have Yakuza. I haven't even opened them yet, bro. It's nuts, man.
Dude, I started Yakuza and I haven't had. I'm gonna go back to it, but now I have a backlog. It's weird saying that.
Yeah.
For me, I'm just taking them one at a time. It's like when they come out, I suspect I'll be maybe done with Nier by the time I know Full Throttle is coming out, and I really wanted to play that game, and then whatever else is going to come in a year. I know that there's something coming. Maybe Red Dead or something.
Hey, Carlos, man, Persona 5. We're fucked. That's a couple of days from now, son.
And quite honestly, I might put Mass Effect on hold.
Ooh.
The hype is real, man.
I have to put Mass Effect on hold for work because I got to play ukulele now. Games, man, is crazy right now.
Mass Effect is I think my... It was going to be my next one, but I might go to Nier now.
Go to Nier. Oh, man. Even that game's long. Every game's fucking long. Mass Effect, your favorite thing is eating my face, man. Ooh.
The one thing about Nier is just the kind of kooky way that Yoko Taro tells his stories. Like, there's shit in the game that you can find that doesn't go anywhere. He'll put shit in the game that doesn't go anywhere. He's like, oh my God, you found this. And you're like, what does it do? And it's like, oh, well, I can't tell you. And they'll just die. I'm like, or like all the weapons have lore in it, right? But the carrot on the end of the stick is the fact is that the lore doesn't reveal itself until you've upgraded your weapon all the way to its final level.
The fuck?
I kind of like that. So sometimes you'll level it all the way up and it'll be like, Yeah,
it's like, what does it do? And then it's like, oh wow, it tells the story of a previous game, or like there's all these different like hidden like things that you learn from other people. It's like it's cool. It's well done game. I really enjoy the kind of Platinum Games combat. It's solid like their stuff usually is. And plus you can drift with a boar. Boar drifting.
Let's move on here. Awesome. Mr. Riku-san 1. He's
whoa! Who's this?
And Riku style, he's got a very, very long and involved question here. Okay, he goes, "Your boy Riku-san 1 got a question. Prepare to read, Tony, because it's a lot." This question was a kind of the debate that me and my nigga was having in a PSN party the other night when your boy finally platinumed Horizon Zero Dawn. My man, he goes, "I also platinum Neo, and also Adam, your boy Riku is a G." So he goes, anyway, this question does not have a distinct answer. It seems to be it seems to be extremely wide open, vague, and different for most people. It's similar to my question about what you think is the difference between sandbox and open world games. So here's my question. What do you think is the difference between a hack and slash game and a beat 'em up game? The similarities between the two are to the point where some people think there is no difference at all, but you better trust that I feel there is a difference. I want to know everyone's opinion and examples of the difference between the two, listing games for each of them. Riku has a very thought out answer, but I'll get to that after we give ours.
Before we jump into that, I just want to say, like, I think we can actually, because he alluded to it, put a pin in the open world versus sandbox. Open world, Horizon, sandbox, Zelda.
Yeah. But the thing is, we answered it, I think, satisfactorily. Open world game is, like a game that's just really fucking big, and a sandbox game is a game that lets you do what you want.
But we have two perfect examples of them now.
Yeah, that is true. Horizon Zero Dawn open world game, Zelda sandbox game.
Yes.
There you go. As
yeah,
far as this,
Nier is an open world game and semi sandbox.
yeah, there's overlap sometimes, but yeah. My answer is there is a difference. Beat 'em up game is a game where you mostly fight people with fists, right? And hack and slash game is a game where you mostly fight people with swords. That's it's a pretty simple thing. Like I understand why people would say that because they're both melee games type, melee type games. But to me, there is a very distinct difference. Beat 'em up, you beat people up with your fists or like blunt weapons or whatever. Like sometimes maybe you could pick up a pipe or whatever, but mostly you're fighting with your fists, right? Hack and slash, you're mostly fighting with a sharp weapon of some sort. Maybe
okay, so,
so that's my
that's an awfully fine distinction though.
So what? Yeah, because like here's the difference. It's like,
well, again,
okay, what do you call Golden Axe?
Golden Axe, that I would call that. See, Golden Axe is interesting because I would say hack and slash, but there's also beating up in there.
They have the thing is that they all are equipped with weapons.
Yeah.
What would you say a game like Guardian Heroes is?
I would call that a beat 'em up game.
Even though a lot of the characters have swords.
They do have swords, but you mostly beat up people melee style, Like I would say if you're 60-40 one way or another, then you're one or the other ones, That's my answer. So, Manny, what do you say?
Then you take a game like Devil May Cry.
May Cry, that's hack and slash, pure hack and slash.
But he also punches.
Not really. Sometimes he has like this or whatever. But mostly his main weapons are swords. So I would classify that as a hack and slash game. But anyway,
he also shoots.
You sometimes, but the guns are really there for like just keeping enemies in place. They don't really do anything for the most part, which always annoyed the shit out of me.
Then what about Bayonetta?
Yeah, that's hack and slash because she mostly like hack and slashes with her weird feet.
But
those only help you get to S rank.
You said it had to they'd have to have a sword or something.
You know what?
She's mostly punching and kicking.
Okay, so that's a beat 'em up game then. I'm trying to be very black and white with this one. But again, that's my answer. Manny, what do you say? What's the difference between the two?
I definitely think that there is a difference between them, and I think it's somewhat close to what you said. Where it's like, where it's hand to hand versus weapon fighting. But the thing is that they, in a lot of ways, they're very close to each other.
Oh yeah, they're very, very similar.
The one thing I do notice about a lot of beat 'em up games is that they're not very combo centric. Where it's like they're mostly just. But then again, we're talking Bayonetta, where she punches and kicks the shit out. Yeah, so it's. I feel like it's maybe just the difference of hand to hand to weapon combat.
Yeah. All right.
I also think that to a certain extent the genres have grown together. But if I had to give my answer, I always saw a beat 'em up honestly more combo based. Like I felt like a beat 'em up was supposed to feel like a Street Fighter game where you progressed through a little bit, where you had waves of enemies instead of just a stage where you fought a guy. So you move forward, but it was a lot of intended to be kicking and punching and beat downs. Whereas I felt hack and slash were always very focused on speed and acrobatics. Jumping around. Ninja Gaiden, Devil May Cry, God of War. You're flying all over the place. Your blades are going all over the place. It's very theatrical, where I feel that beat 'em ups are generally a little bit more timing and precision based.
So you think it's like, and maybe the other difference is the fact that beat 'em ups are more personal, like not personal, but like you're beating up one person at a time as opposed to waves of people.
Kind of like, and I haven't seen I wouldn't qualify many games as beat 'em up. Yakuza would be a good beat 'em up game. Shenmue was a great beat 'em up game.
Because you never at any point had an ability to, like, everybody would run up to you one by one like a kung fu film.
And you would mostly fight them with this. I wouldn't call Shenmue a beat 'em up game. I would call it a game that had beat 'em up mechanics in it. But yes, I agree with you generally. That's a beat 'em up game. What are you doing? You're beating the shit out of people with your fists and your feet.
Well, and I think it expresses a lot of times with like weapons and whatnot. But like I think that's more of a symptom than the thing that makes the difference.
Because, like, for example, Yakuza, you can pick up weapons. There's a mode just to use weapons, pretty much, and it has RPG elements. So it's like it's all infused. Like everything's infused within that game, but it's still the hardest soul of the game is a beat 'em up game.
Yeah.
So,
even though you could beat somebody up with a moped, but
yeah.
Well, no, but the thing is that the moped blows up eventually, so it's not your main weapon. Except what's his face when he's in bat mode. When you're playing that other guy, but then again, even then, it's still very beat 'em uppy. One person at a time, and
no, like they're all slower. Like beat 'em up seems to focus on like the impact and the fight, whereas like I said, like I feel like hack and slashes involve a lot of acrobatics and kind of theatrics. Big glowing weapons flying all around and insane like blurry move kind of things like that. Like they're really playing up the whole kind of anime angle of it.
Yeah. See, when I'm thinking about beat 'em up, I'm thinking about like Streets of Rage and Final Fight and shit like that. Then hack and slashes like Ninja Gaiden, Devil May Cry, that sort of stuff. But yeah, I think Carlos, what do you say, man?
Yeah.
Well, hold on. Before that's not a fair analogy. If you compare Streets of Rage to like the original Ninja Gaiden, they're pretty fucking similar.
Oh yeah, well the original Ninja Gaiden would be a hack and slash though.
Yeah,
because what are you doing when you're beating guys? I mean, yeah, but
the mechanics of the game were so very similar. That's why I say like
the original Ninja Gaiden is very case by case. Like it's very, you're never really killing waves of enemies. It's usually like 2 or 3 guys per screen, and you just kind of.
Well, I mean, you guys are talking again. I basically purely on what do you use to beat up people with, right? Ninja Gaiden, sword, hack and slash.
I think also,
fist, beat them.
I think it also has to do with the mechanics, because again, you think of a game like Golden Axe. It's like, okay, you use a weapon in that game, but it's nothing like a hack and slash because you're not. I mean, you may be hacking up people, but at the same time, it's only just one-on-one fights that you're. Little mini one-on-one fights that you're having between each character.
Yeah. So you guys, so you guys do factor the amount of enemies into this, because I'm actually not factoring enemies at all.
Well, that's why I say like a beat 'em up feels like a fighting game that you progress through without jumping from stage to stage. Like you're more focused on a single enemy at a time. Like a hack and slash is about just having a giant glowing sword and cleaving through waves of enemies
in style, right?
In style, like you got. It's almost like the difference between watching a kung fu movie and watching an anime. Like an anime is going to be over the top, but there's going to be a lot of time dilation in there. There's going to be like a lot of ridiculousness and kind of over the top for just the sake of being there, which is what makes it awesome. But a kung fu movie, like a good kung fu movie, is you can see where each person is blocking a strike and things like that. Like you don't want to do a lot of jump cuts in any kung fu action scene, because you're supposed to be following the action very clearly. All my favorite kung fu movies are the ones where they actually hit each other, because you can actually see the impact. And even then, like those aren't as fast and frantic as like most jump cut fight scenes are.
Yeah, thankfully we don't have to worry about jump cuts in a video game. But yeah, Carlos, what do you say, man?
Yeah, I agree with Brennan Manny more. Like I think it's the feel of the game. For example, if you had Yakuza, right, and you instead of his fists you had razor blades, it still would have been a beat 'em up game, because the feel of the game would still be the same, and that's where the origins of where the game came from.
Yeah, and it seems like those games, or the beat 'em ups, tend to be a little more slower in pace.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, and like Brett said, the hack and slash are more theatrical. They're more fast paced. They're more. Let me get to the NS rank in Devil May Cry, so I'll shoot like a million bullets at the same time while I'm slashing this, or with Nero grabbing them with a freaking huge ass hand thing. So it's. That's the distinction between both of them, to me at least.
Yeah.
I'm surprised we kind of sort of agree on this. But that's good. Riku has very different.
I'm interested to hear it. I intentionally didn't read Riku's answer because I didn't want to.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So here's his answers. Again, it's different from what each of us said, actually. But not too different though. He goes, okay, for beat 'em ups, this is how he describes a beat 'em up. This genre, I feel, started with games like Streets of Rage, where you use a character to beat up a number of peons. Even though this game is called beat 'em up, it is not limited to punches and kicks, as I consider Golden Axe or the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles part of the genre, even though you use swords. This genre is in the AAA games category, but it is not the same as it used to be, as it's not limited to side-scrolling games anymore. I feel this genre has migrated into what Dynasty Warriors is. The main purpose is still to beat up people with side objectives here and there, but obviously from a third-person view instead of a 2D perspective. Other games in the category is every other Muso game made by Omega Force, Sengoku, Basara, Fate Extella, and Senon Kagura, which Brian was here. Yeah, Riku, right there. You're mixing in hack and slash into this, but that's how he sees it. And here's his explanation for a hack and slash. This genre is similar to beat 'em up, where you still kill a bunch of people, but most of the time the amount of enemies on screen are not 50 to 60 like beat 'em up games. Most of the time, this genre's enemy count is about 1 to 25 at most on screen. These enemies are far more difficult and have variety, whereas beat 'em ups peons just stand there and let you fuck them up. This genre mostly has you using 1 to 5 characters, but these characters' movesets are far deeper than most characters found in a beat 'em up genre. Also, although melee combat is key in the genre too, most of the time its main objective is to get from point A to point B. Most of the time, this genre is a linear subset of the action adventure genre. This genre usually has puzzles and platforming sections throughout. Some list these games under action adventure. I know Tony would, but obviously action adventure games consist of Uncharted and Horizon, which are both different in their own right. Games in this category include Devil May Cry, God of War, Bayonetta, and Ninja Gaiden. Just like beat 'em up, hack and slash is not limited to just hacking and slashing with weapons, as Dante, Kratos, Bayonetta, and Ryu all have weapons that don't necessarily hack or slash. It's just the name for the genre. All right, so let's break down Riku's answers here. Very interesting. Yeah, he did a lot more mixing and matching than we did, though. You know,
well, other than Dynasty Warriors, he seems like he's on like He said Golden Axe was a beat 'em up.
Dynasty Warriors. Do we all agree Dynasty Warriors is a hack and slash game? We all agree on that, right? It's a hack and slash game.
Yeah, I think I think the only place he really differed on a lot of us was where the Dynasty Warriors might fall in, and I see that as honestly kind of a middle ground, because again, it's definitely not God of War, it's not Devil May Cry, but I would probably say the best modern iteration of beat up elements would probably be like Yakuza. Although even to a certain extent, like would you call fuck, I'm drawing a blank. Zombie game, setting them all.
Dead Rising.
Dead Rising.
Would you call Dead Rising? I call Dead Rising a beat 'em up more than a hack and slash.
Ooh.
I consider it. I think it's more of a beat 'em up.
I'm going to consider it beat 'em up too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I and then that's not that far from the mechanics of Dynasty Warriors. So I mean, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, the one thing about Dead Rising is that, like, you never have. I mean, granted, you knock down millions, bunches of zombies, but I feel like in general, like the pace of the game is a lot slower.
Yeah,
beat 'em ups, right?
Like in other words, it can't be considered a hack and slash because I just feel like it doesn't move the same. Like, in other words, it's like you're still, if you don't do that one move that may hold all these guys back so you can punch one of them.
So it seems like it's coming down to pacing and style.
I feel like it's pacing and style that really makes the difference between them, because the guy in Dead Rising doesn't do fancy fucking. He may have like 1 or 2 hit combos, but his techniques are never really anything more than just what he does. Like, okay, I have punch move, maybe a hard punch move, and that's about it.
Yeah, it's more it's more about kind of timing and precision and a slower pace, whereas hack and slashes are all about chaining together, ridiculously theatrical combos.
Yeah, exactly. So like everything will start running at you, but you always have this move that literally goes and slaps everything.
There's
around
always a super move. Yeah. I like that question. Oh, and then Riku ends it off with he goes, so that's my answer. Disagree with me if you want, but this is my opinion, obviously, and I have more platinums than all you niggas put together. He goes, you all combined have 126 platinums. I have 147. Riku, man, I love that. Yeah.
And so after all of that, he just slaps his dick on the table and says, "Here."
Y'all know how I feel about platinums. I don't get them on principle.
Oh,
yo, Riku, my gamer score higher than yours.
Oh, actually, my gamer score is higher than his.
I'm sure Adam's gamer score is probably higher than all of ours.
Yeah, my gamer score is higher than Riku's, but because Riku's never played on Xbox ever in his life,
yes,
I could have 5 gamer score and I'd still be higher than him.
The thing, at least my views on trophies is like, I think his, mine, and Tony's, and a bunch of the other guys on the show.
And Adams, yeah,
and Adams is just like, if you kind of enjoy the game, you get the platinum in it.
Yeah, man, you and I talked about it before. Like, you're kind of honoring the game, right? Like, if the game is that good, you want to honor it by getting the.
Yeah, I'll sit for the whole run and do everything that I need to.
Manny,
the game out.
I disagree because Adam got a platinum on My Name Is Mayo. So
no. Here's the thing about Adam. There's two. The Adam's thing is there's two. Because he likes the platinum thing, like he likes the getting them, but at the same time, he won't go against getting a really easy stupid one.
Yeah, no, not me, man.
If you look at any of the platinums that Adam has, a lot of the games are games that you just kind of get them for beating the games, or just maybe a little bit of backtracking.
Yeah, look, I don't even think I have one platinum.
Well, you don't care about that stuff.
Yeah, but the thing is that doesn't. Here's the thing. I'm not gonna rag on anybody for not getting any platinums. I'm not saying you should or shouldn't get them, but at least for me, when I really enjoy the game, I'm kind of that completionist in me wants to get everything that's in the game.
Yeah, for sure.
So, here's the alternative to that, where you have a game like Uncharted, where I literally get, I'll get like 100% in the game, but that doesn't equal up to the platinum trophy in the game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you know what? Screw Naughty Dog, because they'll give you 5 trophies for beating the game, man.
Yeah, I mean, Brent and I were talking about that. I hate those trophies where, like, you press start and they give you a trophy. Like, come on, man, nah. That's stupid. Like, I do want a record of my accomplishments. It's like, hey, you had sex with the blue alien. You beat the game on hard, shit like that. But it's like, get through 20% of the game. That's retarded. That's dumb.
No. Here's my problem with that. You are literally saying you subscribe to the everybody gets a trophy rule. You get a trophy if you're the best, and then somebody can fucking take it away from you if they're better than you. That's how trophies fucking work. First, second, and third get fucking trophies. It's not.
Could you imagine if somebody could take away your PlayStation trophies,
dude? Then I would be about fucking trophy hunting.
You were like, and then it becomes a competition.
Yeah,
yeah. Like, not everybody should get a gold medal. Like that. I don't understand how that works. Like, and I get that you have to have a representation for like achieving certain checkpoints. I have beef that they're fucking trophies though. That's some millennial shit right there. You want a participation trophy for starting the game too?
I feel like the platinum trophy for a lot of games, that's like the ultimate one though.
Yeah.
The platinum trophy shows that you burn through all the content, which while I don't understand and I kind of conscientiously object to, I do still give respect for.
Because at least it's like, okay, yes, you did get most of the trophies in the game, but not many people have that platinum trophy. Most people
that's where I kind of object. Like, I don't feel like you can platinum a game without the game becoming work.
And no, that's not true, because I've platinum a lot of games and it just felt good. There are some games like that. Obviously, every game is different. Like some platinums are hard, like busy work. Some are just very enjoyable. So there's
when you accidentally, if that's true, when you accidentally platinum games just by enjoying the content.
So you have to be pretty deliberate in it. But
that's what I'm saying. Like, there comes a certain point to get a platinum in which you have to be like, I'm going to be doing this to get the platinum, not because you're enjoying the game, but because you want to get the platinum. And
that's also enjoyment too, though. That's the thing I want to debunk here. That's enjoying. Like, okay, this platinum is making me do something I wouldn't normally do that shows me something of a game that I wasn't thinking about. That's enjoyable to me. And again, getting 100% is also enjoyable too. Remember, I was getting 100% in games before platinums even existed.
I know, and that's why I'm saying, like, and I'm with you right there. Like, I can totally understand 100%ing a game, but just the weird arbitrary rules. Like and this is me again. Like unless there's some competitive aspect to it, like I lose interest. Like, and it's weird too. Like you can be like, you want to pick herbs in a game? Nah, not really. Well, if you pick more herbs than that guy, something cool happens. I'm like, oh, that motherfucker thinks he can pick more herbs than me. I'll show you what's up. Like my attitude changes when you introduce a competitive aspect. So I own a lot of my own beef here.
Very interesting. Yeah, the whole competitive aspect, it's not even anything for me.
Oh, dude, that's why I love survival games. Like you put me on a server, like you put me in a game where I have to crawl around and like try not to die by picking berries. Okay, that's one thing. You put me on a server with 12 other guys trying to do the same thing, give me the ability to murder him and take his berries. Oh, it's a whole different fucking game now, son. I'm gonna get all the berries. I'm gonna get all the berries I need to eat, and then I'm gonna get more. I'm just gonna fucking sit on like a fucking like a
hoarder,
Afro samurai with the fucking bandana, and I will just wait for challengers.
Yeah.
So Shanatsky said some achievements just exist to pad out the game.
I agree.
That's so true. Like there's some achievements that you get just for turning on the friggin' options.
Yeah. Stupid. Yeah. Some are just dumb as shit, you know?
But I still don't mind the percentage achievements. Like, oh, get 20% of the game and you get a bronze trophy, for example, because you'd be surprised what percentage of the people who play the game actually have that trophy. Like sometimes you see like a 20% completion trophy, and there's like 30% of the people who bought the game or played the game actually got there.
You see that funky drop off, like where it's like all of a sudden, it like once you get to like the halfway point of the game, it looks like everybody just dropped off.
Yeah,
it's
I wouldn't even go that far.
The second I unlock the last weapon in the game, I'm bored.
Yeah, he's already done with Horizon. He got the last weapon. He's done.
Yeah, I don't even have the most powerful version of each weapon. But the second I found out like this is all the variants of the weapon I get, and I've seen all the enemies, all right, I'm done.
Yeah, no, and a lot of people are like that. Like most games, even the simplest fucking game, a lot of people haven't beaten them. It's crazy. You know, I don't get that. I'm like, you bought the game, finish it, man.
I'm bored.
I mean, for me, if the story is compelling enough for me to continue to go, or the thing in the game is more intriguing, that I feel like I want to continue to play the game. There's obviously games that I've forced myself to play, and I just never. Again, Castlevania: Lords of Shadow.
Oh God,
I felt like as much as I like the order just didn't feel like it reached a really good high point for me. You know, like I kind of wanted to know about the world, but a lot of the world building that was supposedly done to create the game aren't really in the game. Like I really want to know more about their alternate version of the Steam, you know, of the Industrial Revolution, but none of that's in the game, really.
Yeah, for sure. Damn it, there was something else I wanted to add, but I completely forgot it. Damn it. Oh well. All right, let's move on here. Vishal Thind, he goes, shout out to Tony and Chris for bringing facts last week with that visual chart. Shout out to Chris who brought that chart. That was fucking amazing. Like, dude, do more of that. That was great. You know, and he goes, Chris has been right on the money with his predictions. Also, shout out to Throwdown Cast, Emilio, Brett, Brian, Carlos, and Adam. You guys keep doing what you do. A great podcast. And I also want to mention that pineapple doesn't go on pizza. My man. That's right.
There you go.
Fuck that shit. You know, all right. So here is questions.
Yeah, this is the non-pineapple beckoning bell. There you go.
Yes,
you get one of those.
Not in the house of Matumbo. You know. All right. So this is actually based off of something I said on Twitter last night. You know, he goes, as Tony has been part of this gaming industry for almost 5 years, what things has changed in the industry, you know, in his opinion? I want all you guys to answer this shit because we've all been doing this for a long time now. You know,
but we you know, a lot of the guys haven't actually gotten to the other portion of it where it's like going to game shows and stuff like that. I mean, you know, with the exception of me, you, and Chris, we've gone to to like the E3s and the things like that. I mean, Brett has done the comic shows, but I mean, you kind of always done.
I'm talking about just you got to look at the entirety of it. We all could chime in on that.
Oh well, you know at least for me, the biggest thing is just how everybody's just triggered off of everything.
Yep.
Now. Like even if it's like, you know, somebody has a differing opinion than somebody, then they get mad at them, and then they get into some stupid Twitter shouting match, and it's just, they make a dumb video on YouTube being angry. I feel like it just seems like everybody's is like addicted to anger. You know what I mean?
That's not just for the gaming industry. That's for like everything now. But you're right. Like the Gamergate really changed everything. There's a pre-Gamergate industry and a post-Gamergate industry. Very different world, man. Like I'll talk about some of the little things. I'll talk about some macro things. When I first started in the industry, when I go to events, the only games they had on display were the Xbox 360 games. Now it's nothing but PlayStation 4 games. The industry guys themselves are basically the same. These guys that don't really play many games and stuff. The only guys playing games are guys like me. They're independent dudes, mostly, smaller guys. That hasn't changed too much. But things like E3 have definitely changed. Man, when we went to E3, it was mostly just industry dudes there. Now it was mostly industry dudes. Stuff. That's changed. But yeah, mostly the thing I'm noticing the changes, and it's happening with America too. Like things have become like more, I hate to say this word, but become more like totalitarian. Like you don't feel as open to share your ideas because you feel you may lose your job. I know I don't say as much shit as I used to because I'm like, I don't want to get fucking fired now. Thank you, Brett. Puritanical. It's very puritanical, which is hilarious because the people bringing that whole puritanical things were the guys that used to be against it 20 years ago, but now they're being puritanical. It's very weird. So definitely,
they don't realize it. They're being thought police. They're being thought police and telling you what's right and what's wrong, and not realizing like you do realize like that's the same kind of shit that you rail against with like the church. Like you're not allowed to tell people what their opinions on things are.
Yeah, 100%, exactly. So that's definitely the biggest thing. You can't speak your mind anymore. And now game developers, all that shit is trickling in. All these like ideas, like fucking up the games. Yeah, man.
Can I go off on my soapbox for a second?
Dude, go ahead, please.
All these motherfuckers have gotten soft. Like there used to be a time, like, and I hate to say it because I feel like we, to a certain extent, we lost Gamergate. There used to be a time when the shit that we do around here and the fucking calling out and the holding people to standards was something that was done, and now it just seems like either you've got a cause that you're riding your high horse on, or you're lining up to try and suck the dick of some publisher or another. There doesn't seem to be this holding to standards. I remember when one of the, and I forget which Metroid game it was that came out because it was the one I didn't fucking play. Other M. When they gave Samus a love interest, and gamers were just fucking vocal about the fact that like you are ruining this character by ham-fisting a love interest into this. Samus is a strong female character, and you're kind of just you're ruining her personality by putting her in this position. Like, and I remember a lot of a lot of journalists were saying the same thing. Like I feel like we fucking lost that. Everybody's, because of all this hatred, they've become afraid to call a fucking spade a spade and call out people. So I feel to a certain extent like developers have gotten soft. There's no harsh criticism anymore unless it's against somebody else's values.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's the thing, though. And now everything is up to criticism. Like, I'm going to say, going back to Horizon, right? That game is about as SJW friendly as you can get. They still found a reason to complain about, oh, it's cultural appropriation. What are you appropriating? It takes place 1,000 years in the fucking future. But everything is now like, everything's cause for outrage now. It's
who is culture?
That's what I'm saying. Like, oh, they're stealing Native American culture. Like, no, they're not. They're in the fucking future.
Dude, if anything, they're stealing fucking my people's culture. So shut the fuck up.
Like Irish people?
Dude, the Irish and Gaelic people, yeah, like they lived in a tribal society. A lot of them, when they came over, they didn't join the actual fucking cities and villages. They went out to live with the Native Americans because that was closer to what they had from their homeland. Don't get me wrong, like you don't think of it as a tribal society, but the shit you see in Horizon Zero Dawn is how a lot of like Northern Europeans live. So don't fucking tell me that you're taking just Native American shit. That's how that was a fucking Scandinavian lifestyle before.
Yeah, come on. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They look like Scandinavians in Horizon though, but they don't see that again because they're always looking for outrage, any little thing. And I love how these people eat each other up. Like you could be a bastion of like diversity or whatever, right? But if you do one little thing wrong, they will come after you. It doesn't matter if you think exactly like them, right? So again, this is why nowadays I'm like, Tony, don't say nothing, man. This is why I only go after fanboys on fucking Twitter because no one gives a shit about them. Everybody else, like, Tony, don't say it. Don't fucking say it, bro. It's great and it's very scary. This is one of the first times in my life where I've actually felt scared. I'm being honest with everybody now. I'm like, I'm afraid I'm going to lose my fucking job if I say the wrong thing. I need to shut the fuck up.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing you have to remember, being a person who is in the public eye. In general, you don't talk off the cuff because it can affect.
No, but I'm talking about simple things that were accepted. I'm talking about things that you could have said 5 years ago. You cannot do now. Look what happened with Colin Moriarty. The guy told a dad joke and he was vilified.
Dude, go beyond that. Do you think you could make Rats of Nim in today's society? Could you make All Dogs Go to Heaven? Could you make any of these old fucking classic never-ending story? Like, you couldn't make any of this shit.
Yeah.
Like, and I realized, I was talking to somebody the other day, like, even back in the day, like, I fucking loved Alien as a kid. Like, I had all the toys. They had a line of toys for kids who liked a rated R horror movie.
Yeah. You can't do that now.
Well, I mean, that was a lot of the 80s stuff. I mean, literally, RoboCop had his own toys. That was a rated R.
Yeah.
Rambo.
Well, and even the content, a lot of those, like the Rats of Nim was a dark, heavy story. Never-ending Story is a dark, heavy story. Even some of the themes that they approach. The only thing left on the table now is fucking death. That's all that it is. Like, people die. Like, you don't like even like I was watching the anime Magi, and like I was shocked how dark they went. They went into like the value of a human life and what is slavery. And the idea of being like hitting rock bottom and pretty much wanting to die. Like, there's a lot of dark themes in there that I'm so not used to seeing now. All I'm used to seeing is violence, death, and wrestling with the morality of violence and death, aka the Daredevil conundrum.
Yeah, and then the other thing is let me see. Innate, he goes, agenda pushing and backing people who slander games and gamers. That's a good point, because again, even 5 years ago, right? Usually, society's always been against gamers, right? And the gaming media would always push back against them. Now they're siding with these guys. For the first time in history, I've really, like, if Jack Thompson were to come around now, they probably side with this guy now. It's crazy, like, because they think gaming and gamers are all evil now. The gaming media is saying this shit, so that's different than when I started. But the thing is, when I started, it was already happening just below the surface, right? Gamergate just blew it up to a whole other thing. Torrents, he opened up our eyes to a lot of this crazy shit that was going on. So when it happened, we were like, hey, all the shit we were talking about for years, there it is, people.
I know how to crystallize it.
Yeah.
And I think I can proudly say that we don't do this. A lot of the gaming journalist industry has lost respect for its audience and talked down to them.
Agreed. Here's the thing. That's been happening for a long time. It's just really crystallized now. You're right. They talk down to them. They think their audiences are beneath them. They have open contempt for their audience. It's really sad. And it wasn't like that. Like, back in the day, the gaming media were gamers themselves, but now you get a lot of these guys that are like failed academics. They couldn't get into the real journalism they wanted to, so they fall back into gaming. They're bitter about that, so they just lash out on everything instead of focusing on the actual games. They try to focus on some bullshit made up drama or whatever. It's nuts, man. It's sad, quite frankly, and all this shit is trickling down into the actual games, right? Again, I'm having a lot of fun with Mass Effect Andromeda, but I know if they would have made this game 5 years ago under those environments, it probably would have been a stronger game, like with characters of it. Feels like they're playing it too fucking safe now. I'm noticing that with a lot of games now. Even Marvel Comics, great example. They play it so safe now. They don't want to offend anybody. But when you play it safe, you get the blandest stories you possibly can. And where do you get challenged by that? You don't get challenged. You just get spoon-fed like gruel basically.
And you don't grow either. It's like being fucking homeschooled.
Yeah, exactly.
I think the thing is that a lot of places are afraid of the consequences of somebody being annoyed with it, because now somebody being angry means that somebody might fucking send you a fucking letter with anthrax.
That's another problem.
Fucking try to blow up your fucking building. So it's obviously you want to be be real and all that stuff, but at the same time, what does that mean? If let's say, Tony, let's say you do say something that's offensive to somebody, but maybe not your company. Who's to say somebody isn't going to come over to your place and say, fuck you, you asshole, and try to beat the shit out of, or you do something worse?
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. And I'm glad you bring that up because on the other vein, let's say I do say something that might be offensive, right? I doubt a lot of these people, and I'm just be completely honest right now. I doubt a lot of people that call themselves my friends. I'm not talking about you guys, obviously. I doubt a lot of these people will back me up. They may even throw me under the bus. Look what happened with Hip Hop Gamer, right? When he said that thing about the Resident Evil thing, all his supposed friends, they all turned on him in an instant. I was like, oh my God, what the fuck happened? These are guys that I know he's hung out with, that he's, shared, I mean, not drinks, hip hop is a drink, but he's hung out with them. He's been to shows. They all turned on him in a fucking dime. Why? Because agendas are what they care about more than friendship. It's really fucking disgusting, And that's
and the thing is that
too, they all turn on him. Look how Greg Miller stabbed the guy in the back. It's fucked up.
Well, I don't know. I mean, here's the thing. I don't know. I mean, I think that situation. I don't think he stabbed him in the back. I
do. I understand why he did it because of monetary, but he stabbed him in the back, man.
I think for the sake of the company, he had to kind of his hand was
forced up.
I mean, I don't consider that a backstab. I consider him going on TV and going on and shaming Colin Moriarty, saying he's,
that's the main one going on. He could have made the statement a completely different way instead of throwing his friend under the bus. Let's just be honest.
But I think the thing in general is that, again, people do not want to have adult conversations. Everybody wants to react to these things. Okay, let's say somebody does have a belief that that isn't right. There's somehow their thoughts are wrong in this certain situation. Rather than going over there and having an adult conversation, literally yelling at them and telling them they are wrong. The problem with that is that as soon as you start attacking somebody, they instantly get defensive. Rather than having an adult conversation and saying to this person, hey, listen, what is this thing you're saying? And then you having this conversation where it's like, well, this thing happened to me, because you don't know why all these, why people have the beliefs that they have. It could be from personal experience or a whole bunch of other things compounded on top of it. But everything, because everybody is a fucking idiot and everything has to be oversimplified.
Yep.
It's either black or it's white. It's like, okay, you're leaning in this direction. Okay, you're automatically racist.
Yeah, I love how the people who preach and tolerance are the most intolerant. That's the funny part.
And I know we're going way outside of our wheelhouse here, right. But I just want to point out, look, ignorance is a thing, and you cannot approach ignorance with insult or aggression. And unfortunately, if you're exposed to ignorance, the burden lies on you to educate. It's not a good thought. It's not satisfying, but you can either ignore it and not let it bother you. You can hate somebody for it, or you can try and educate people. And honestly, the responsible adult human thing to do is have a reasonable discussion and try and share opinions to educate while being open to the fact that you yourself might be wrong. And through these methods, in baby steps and degrees, we bring ourselves closer to truth. And that is how we know the world. Otherwise, we're just a bunch of whiny fucking babies sticking our head in the sands and throwing a tantrum because somebody else doesn't want to stick their head in the sand right next to yours and have the same opinion as yours. You know what?
Yeah.
It's just like, and I'll be honest, I've been praising the Switch left to right, like, and I will admit it, like I'm loving this thing, and I'm eating so much crow. I've had people have been I've been accused of having inconsistent views even. And it's like, no, I was wrong and I changed my mind.
Here's the thing, Brett, I need to go off on things. This pissed me off, right? So you're telling me that somebody cannot over time or because of one specific thing change your mind, right? Human beings grow through experience, right? You don't just remain the same person your entire life. If you have a person that never changed, there's something wrong with that person, So I find that very, not offensive, but that gets me mad. We're like, oh, you change your opinion, you're flip-flopping. No, I see things from a different perspective now. That's what you're going through right now with Nintendo, right? Mm-hmm. And I totally understand that. I may not agree with it, but I understand where you're coming from, Because
again, I just changed my mind. If I change it back and if I keep waffling, feel free to call me fucking out. But I just changed my mind. That's not inconsistent.
It's fucking stupid. But anyway, just to kind of go back on topic, but I did
also I admitted I'm wrong. That's the big fucking thing.
You know what? That's another thing. Thank you. That makes you a fucking man, right? That makes you a man.
Or in general, being a real person. Just because you are wrong. It's okay to be wrong, and go in the right direction. Again, you don't need to crucify a person for having a wrong belief. The thing is, at the same time, it's like like what Brett said, you have to we all have to educate ourselves and learn about these sorts of things. We have to get into the why does this other person have this idea in their head? You have to have a much deeper conversation than saying you're a fucking asshole.
Yeah, and Twitter prevents that shit. Where everybody
105 words. What is it? 150 words.
Yeah, 140 characters. Yeah, it's fucking dumb. But anyway, what about the games themselves? Because I've been thinking about this whole time. I don't know if they've changed too much. It's still mostly player focused, DLCs, the microtransactions, all that bullshit.
The narrative's gotten softer.
The games of pretty much like what Brett said originally about Horizon. It's like it's the aspects of other games that work being added onto another game. So it's like, okay, it's all these combination of things that really work really well. And that's kind of what a lot of games tend to be. When it comes to the multiplayer thing, a lot of times that sort of thing, at least that first run toward it, which is the Destinies and the friggin' what's that other one, the monster? Yeah, the one with the monsters would Evolve and Titan, the original Titanfall. Those games didn't work out very well because they didn't realize that people want something more than just the multiplayer aspect of these games.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of that, one thing that has changed, the last vestige remnants of couch co-op have all but disappeared.
In the last 5 years, yeah, they're gone. They were already pretty much extinct 5 years ago. Now they're dead.
Yeah, you don't see that the little two-player thing on most of those games. I mean, you could play some games like split screen and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't know that I've seen a split screen game in the last 5 years. Like I think most couch co-op stuff, like I mean, Diablo, like kind of let you couch co-op a little bit.
Brett, I do agree with you about stories. They've become a lot more watered down. That's why I'm actually like, oh my god, Horizon has a fucking awesome story, because every story has been it's such a letdown lately, so I mean, I could fully admit, like, hey, maybe I like Horizon story so much because the other stories I've been playing are shit. So but yeah, stories have definitely dropped considerably. I don't know why, but maybe it's because
nobody wants to say anything bold about it.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. They don't want to take any chances anymore like they used to. I don't understand why.
Dude, I mean, there's a reason Deadpool was so successful, and that there was no substance behind that. That was just sheer pushing against the will and pissing people off. Like, it's just being cheeky and an asshole. Like, it went out of its way to try and offend a bunch of people, and people liked that. Like, oh my god, surprise!
It's a very 90s sort of film.
Here's the funny thing about Deadpool, right? The movie Deadpool. It's the old Deadpool, the Joe Kelly one, because even Deadpool in the comics now, very watered down, very tame. Then you see Deadpool in movies, like, oh shit, that's the same guy he used to be. What the hell? They didn't like make a new Deadpool. They just brought him back to what he's supposed to be. Although just a little bit more perverted, because they could go away with cursing in movies, obviously. But
yeah, it's funny because comics run that weird line where it's like you can show a person being decapitated and blood squirting all over the place, all over everything, but don't say fuck.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, it's but the thing is, it's not just gaming, it's the whole world. Even in the last 5 years, it's just become very, very different, very sad.
I feel like a lot. I think you're right. It's like a lot of people are very afraid to kind of offend people.
Yeah,
too many people would be triggered for Breaking Bad now. I'd even say.
I agree with you. I agree with you, man.
I'm a meth head.
No, meth is an epidemic, and abusive fathers tear families apart, and
why does one of the main characters say
the same baby voice? Like,
bitch, being misogynistic. Actually, no, it would be like, why are you discriminating against meth heads? That's what would be going on now.
Oh, and Walter White would be a misogynist because he's stealing Skylar's agency, or
Jesus. All right, let's move on here. Next.
But again, go back to the thing. It's like quite a bit of things have kind of changed in the industry, but I just feel like one of the things that we really need to do is I feel like everybody needs to kind of grow up again.
Yeah. Yeah,
we need to be. A lot of people out there just need to really get back and think about the things that are out there and just not let certain little bits of really just stupid things get to you.
Here's the thing, man. We said this. Here's something all of our parents taught us when we were kids, right? Parents need to teach this phrase again. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words can never hurt me. Please remember that.
Yep.
It's words. You could say whatever words you want to somebody. You know what it does? Nothing. It physically doesn't do anything.
It doesn't do anything. But now we have situations where it's like people are getting banned for saying I'm gonna kill you, say all kinds of horrible things.
Yeah.
Well, shit, we have some forms where you're banned for having the wrong opinion, period. Being like, and very politely disagreeing with somebody, being like, I think your argument is mildly unsubstantiated. I disagree on this point, and this point, and here's my source, and boom, you're kicked out of the fucking forum.
Yep. It's I don't know. Man.
I can actually top that even. I know for a fact that there are certain subreddits that you are not allowed to be in if you are joined into other subreddits.
Wow, discrimination, man.
You're not in the cool. You're in the not cool club.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on here. So his next question is: which console had the worst launch? The Xbox One or the PlayStation 3? Come on, man. It's the obvious answer is the PlayStation 3, man.
Yeah, the PlayStation 3, man.
Without a doubt. Not only did they have like a horrible launch, but that E3 was fucking, not only was it terrible, but it was insulting. Oh, get another job, buy her $600 console. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah,
and no games when it came out either.
No.
Say what you want about the Xbox with the bullshit Connect. It still had a better launch lineup than the fucking PlayStation 4 did, By the way, no one's going to remember when we said that.
I was actually about to say, I'm going to go ahead and say the PS4 had the worst launch.
Well, that's not part of the question here. But
he said PS3.
Yeah, he said PS3.
Oh, no, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Not to mention that the controller didn't have Rumble to start.
Yeah, oh my God.
No, it didn't have Rumble, and it didn't have a lot of different things. I mean, it's funny because the Xbox initially started off.
Oh, and Brett, just quick, PlayStation 4 didn't have the worst launch because it literally sold 1 million in a one day, so keep that in mind.
Launch games or launch?
We're not talking about launching, we're talking about overall.
I still got to say PS4. I have never had a system collect dust longer than I did for the PS4.
Yeah, but you're talking about your own personal experience. I'm talking about overall. You can't say, PlayStation 4 was the worst launch when it wasn't. It was one of the most successful launches of all time, mostly because the Xbox One fucked up.
Are we talking monetarily, game-wise?
Everything. Games, launch, reception, everything. You got to take the whole thing into account.
I think.
Again, let's stick back. Xbox One, PS3.
No, you said. Okay. It's Xbox One versus PS3.
Yeah, because these two had the worst launches. Which one was worse? PS3.
Oh yeah, it was definitely the PS3. I mean, seriously, like Sony just was making all the wrong moves at that first thing. Oh, you know why it didn't have Rumble, by the way?
Because they couldn't buy the rights for it, right?
Yeah, because fucking Microsoft bought the company that does their Rumble. So that's the reason why that happened. But definitely the PlayStation. I mean, I swear, when it came to like buying the PlayStation 3, I swear I was like, when did it come out? 2004?
2006.
2006. I didn't buy one until 2000 until like 2008.
Yeah,
toward the fall, which was when Metal Gear Solid.
You bought it in the summer when Metal Gear came
out. In August when Metal Gear came out.
I bought it for Grand Theft Auto, Actually, no, I had it before that. I bought it to get ready for Grand Theft Auto, but I had it before that. I had it 2008, like in January. But yeah. So PlayStation 3 without a doubt. Xbox Xbox had its shit together by the following year. PlayStation 3 took a while, man. It took a while. It
took a while. It took a while of them just kind of working on the fans and working on everybody, and till they got to a good till they worked their way to a good product. But in that beginning stage, it wasn't there. And I definitely think that's the road that the Xbox One has to roll with. They have to continue to prove that they make quality stuff, that they're willing to go out there and do different things. I feel like the old Xbox adage doesn't work. Just throw out a Halo game or just throw out a Gears game. Obviously, those things don't seem to be working anymore. I mean, those games did incredibly well, but they didn't do great.
Yeah.
And they weren't selling systems. They may have sold it for that, that time, and then it just kind of dropped back down again. So again, I don't. And then the other thing is that if Microsoft decides to go in that direction where they're trying to constantly push it and do different things and do fun, new, cool things, will the fans be along for the ride, or are they just looking for the rah like blow the shit out of everything sort of Microsoft, the original Microsoft stuff? No, excuse me, 360 era stuff.
Yeah.
I don't really if we're talking just strictly like fiasco presentation, that kind of thing, like
launch to,
yeah, like
everything.
I want to almost say it objectively has to be the Xbox One, because the PS3 didn't change the entirety of the direction of the console. They lowered the price a little bit, but they didn't fucking tear features out and change everything around and go back on their word and get caught in a bunch of lies and accidentally package a camera that spied on you all the time. Like there were so many things that got shelved from the original concept or to the when we actually got the Xbox One, that I don't think it's a fair comparison. Like, you literally had to tear out and rebuild half of your system and business model versus a system that came out with too high a price and offended a bunch of people by telling them to get a second job. Like, they didn't have to change much. And they didn't nearly have the mass exodus that people had from Xbox One. I mean, if you're looking at overall, is there even a discussion?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely bring up a good argument, and to your argument too, Brett. Don Matrick was booted about a year later.
Yeah, like everything about that was like the ship caught fire. Like, yeah, I want to agree. I'll agree. PS3's launch was not smooth, and they offended a bunch of people, but there weren't like executives diving out of windows the way it seemed like Microsoft was like everyone's like, oh, Microsoft done just fucked up.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, Adam, what's up, man?
What's up, Tony? When that happened, because I was in Xbox land during that time. When that happened, when he came out and said that, get a second job, what was the reaction from like the PlayStation community?
Everybody was pissed.
Yeah, everybody was pissed off, man.
I was like, fuck that shit. I ain't getting no second job. Fuck.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, yeah. Go ahead.
I thought that was a mess up translation. I was like, I don't believe it.
That's how he speaks English, bro.
The guy speaks pure perfect English.
Don't get the second job. Meaning,
come on,
the job you have is weak.
Casual speaks perfect English. Stop that.
Oh, shit. I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I couldn't believe that he had the audacity to say something like that.
Yeah, I was an Xbox fan at that point. And me too. I was like, game over. I cannot believe you're coming off the back of Xbox, one of the most powerful, beastly, beat a homeless person to death systems with amazingly mature titles and great first party games. You're telling me you're going to come up against that with get a second job? Pfft, you're done, Sony. You're done. Like,
and it fucked them up for a long time, man.
Oh yeah. Then what changed was the fucking 360, like, just fucking caught fire randomly 3 times. Like, so I
didn't get.
And that's the fault of them trying to push that out early. But the thing is,
why are we comparing all these two specifically?
Because that's what he asked, Brad. That's what he asked.
Well, that's what I don't understand the question. Like,
how do you not understand which one had a worse launch? It's pretty simple.
Oh, which one had a worse launch?
Because we're comparing 2 different systems from 2 different generations, and like, yeah, the PS3 had a terrible launch, but the 360 had a worse launch because their systems fucking caught fire.
Well, the Dreamcast had an even worse launch.
No, here's the thing. Here's the thing about the
PlayStation
Xbox
already dominated, so nobody cared.
PlayStation wasn't out when the Dreamcast came out, bro.
No, the PlayStation 2 was out.
No, it wasn't. PlayStation.
No, we're not talking about the original Xbox. We're talking about Xbox One.
No, I'm talking about Dreamcast. Forget it.
Yeah.
So the thing is,
again, Adam, correction. PlayStation 2 came out after Dreamcast. Just get that right.
The thing about Xbox is that there was so many experiences available on the Xbox 360 that people constantly kept on buying new 360s because they really wanted to play these fucking games. So it's like it was a shit launch, but it still did well. But they also lost a lot of money at the same time with the 360 because it's like they put out this faulty system too early, this kind of lousily designed hardware, and obviously they ended up paying for it. Even I hear they're even still paying for it today.
Oh, I imagine. Well, I guess that's why I'm like, I'm not. It seems like we're comparing Apple, like, which do you like better, apples or oranges, like, or like, which is sweeter, like it doesn't. In the only lens in which this question makes sense to me, and I'm not trying to. I ain't talking shit to the person who asked it.
Because the question is perfectly valid. Like, it makes perfect sense to me.
How you're comparing the only similarity was that they were both public spectacles. So,
so which one was the worst public spectacle then?
Okay, so that's the vein in which we're asking the question is which incident involved more egg on the face?
Yeah, sure. If you want to take it that way, fine.
Then it's absolutely Xbox One.
Okay,
objectively.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
Can anybody argue that?
Yeah, I still say the PS3 had it worse, and we already explained it. But Adam, which one had the worst launch, man?
Man, for me, I mean, it depends. It's like as a fanboy of Xbox at the time with the 360 and the Xbox One, I knew it was going to be expensive, and I knew they were going to force the Kinect, and I knew all that shit. But I saw the other features that they were advertising at the time, which was sharing your account and all the great services that they were going to offer with Xbox Live and the gold accounts. So I'm like, oh, this is going to work out. And then we got shit, and the OS was shit, and it really turned a lot of people off. And obviously that played a big factor of so many people leaving. We're seeing the effects till this day. So if you go based off of numbers, that was a horrible launch because that set the ground floor and the starting point of people just defecting. People just jumped on him like, wow, this is not what I expected. And they walked away. It's sad. It's really sad because I mean, most people say, "Oh, well, it's the games and this and that." It was the OS. It was everything worked. It was
terrible.
Yeah, it was terrible.
Are you sure it wasn't the fact that it was always online, always on, and always had a camera on you?
No. The PC's always online. That was never a thing. That was. No,
but that combined with the Kinect always listening basically meant there is a 100% chance that your video game system will catch you banging.
But then your cell phone.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Yeah, even so. But even then, it wasn't required to have.
I put everything away when I'm not using it. If I'm not,
you can do the same thing for your Kinect.
Yeah, I disconnected my Kinect. When I stopped using it, I just disconnected. It wasn't like, oh, you can't play your Xbox because Kinect's not connected.
At first that's exactly what they said. That it would not the Kinect.
No, I bought it day one and I never connected.
Yeah, I know a lot of people that didn't.
No, I know, but the message pre-launch was that it has to always be online and the Kinect has to be connected for the system to work. And then they changed that prior to launch.
Yeah, before online was. Yeah, that was the message that went on.
But I had no issues with it, and it was just the OS. They took out all the great features that was in the 360 and made everything.
And now they're putting them back in slowly but surely.
And now they're putting them back in. A buddy of mine was like, "Oh, they did an update. You press the jewel button, and now you get the short menu like you did on the 360." I'm like, "Why did you take this shit out in the first place?"
You're like, "Why are we getting this shit now?"
That's what I'm saying. It's like, why did this happen? Like,
why? Because they wanted to make it fucking Windows 7. That's why. Windows 10.
Windows 10, yeah.
But still, it just even that Windows 10 still works more smoothly than the Xbox One. I mean, who sat in this meeting and when they showed them like, all right, we're doing a drastic overhaul and we're gonna break shit that didn't need fixing, and this is what we're gonna do. Who said, yeah, I'm on board for that? That was upsetting. And that's what pissed me off.
Don Matry.
And it's just one after another, and things just wasn't working out. And I was like, you know what? I'm ready to try something different. I had my Steam. I was always on there, and then the PlayStation. And I said, you know what? I don't have all these issues. Most of my friends already defected, and we're here. So I'm like, I'll just stick with this until they fix the Xbox One, which hasn't happened. It gets a shit of updates. Oh, my God. Every time I plug it in, there's another update.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, man. Yeah, but they don't do anything,
It just doesn't do anything, and it's sad. It's really sad.
Yeah. All right. Now, I want to move on to the last question. This one's going to be fun. Okay, what are your thoughts on Microsoft revealing Scorpio this week? So the rumor going around is, and a bunch of industry guys have verified it, Microsoft is actually going to have a preview event of the Scorpio this week, which I think is a smart move. Don't have the Scorpio at E3 because then you're not going to have time for games. So if this thing goes down, what do you expect? I'm going to start first because, again, this is what I've been predicting. I'm just going to throw it out there again. I predict Project Scorpio will be having 2 SKUs, one at 500, one at 600. 600 one being everything, 2 terabytes, a bunch of shit in there, right? And then the 500 one for, even though it's not made for casuals, it's just made for, like, I guess more of the, some more of the hardcore guys that actually buy it. But I don't expect this thing, if it's as powerful as they claim, 6 terabytes, true 4K, true 60 frames, if it's going to be all that, it cannot be less than 500. Even 500 is a little bit pushing it. And I'm going to say this because a lot of guys are running around saying, oh, every third-party game is going to look better on Scorpio. No, it isn't. We know what they're going to do. Most third parties, they're just going to put a basic upscaler in there. And if they want to go fancy, they're going to use the sparse rendering shit. But outside of first party, you're not going to see like a lot of work put into these games. They're going to look good. Don't get me wrong. But look at the Pro, right? These guys just throw basic upscaler. I think Horizon was one of the few games that used the checkerboard rendering in a while now. Most devs don't do that shit. Third-party guys are not going to put all that extra time into developing shit for a console that's not going to sell that much to begin with. I'm sorry, but if this thing's going to be priced what I believe it's going to be priced, it is not going to be the main selling Xbox. Even fucking Microsoft is saying this is not going to be our best selling Xbox. So no third-party developer is going to go all out on this shit. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it. It's going to be an interesting week, but I want to see how the fanboys are going to spin this, to their favor. But
this is like their Pro controller, it's the Elite controller. This is like the Elite controller, but the Elite console. It's for a special audience.
Yes, and Microsoft has said as much.
Yeah. That's just like how the Pro was advertised. Also, it's a special audience, and it'll sell. I just don't. I'm telling you, I feel like they have something up their sleeve. There's something. They're too quiet. With all this shit going on, they're too quiet. Something's
going to find out this week.
Well, as long as they don't do something like that last Sony PlayStation Pro thing.
Oh my God, that was horrible.
No.
What's the difference between 4K and 1080p? And you can't see it over a fucking live stream.
No, they can't.
Yeah. Thank you, Mark Cerny. Thank you, Sony, and you guys not thinking ahead of time where you're not broadcasting the fucking thing in 4K. Thank you.
Yeah,
makes absolutely no sense. What? Go to your fucking website? You've already lost us. You just said go to somewhere else to see these things in 4K, even though our screens aren't in 4K.
And HDR doesn't translate well either.
What if this thing is small? What if it's like a little box?
Doesn't matter how big or small it is.
Something that you can just put in your bag and take.
What if it's an actual box?
That's what I'm saying.
Instead of a rectangle? Like it's.
Well,
I feel like it's got to do something.
It's a box. It's an actual box.
It's got to be interesting. I'm telling you that there's got to be something special.
It's not going to be small. For the specs that it has, it's impossible to be that small.
Well, you have an ass.
What if it is the size of a first generation Betamax VCR?
What if it's exactly like the PlayStation 1 design? Imagine that. That'd be funny. They took the PlayStation 1 design and they just repainted it.
Again, not going to fit that hardware into that.
Yeah, impossible.
No, I don't know. I'm thinking they just have to do something special, and then
it's going to be a big, noisy, heat-generating beast. It's going to be probably closer to the first Xbox than anything.
And you know what? And I know Tony. I think Adam, you have a PS4 Pro too, right?
Yeah.
That thing fucking hums,
sometimes,
man.
Sometimes, depending on the game.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, like it's like on Mass Effect it does it, on Horizon it does it.
Resident Evil 7 it does it.
So yeah, like the PS like you mentioned, Adam, like they've been quiet, but you know it's Microsoft, man. If they had shit, those dudes would be screaming out of the top of their fucking lungs.
Well, that was under the old regime.
They got nothing up there.
That was under the old regime. This is Phil Spencer. He's got. I have a feeling he has a mind for this. You know what I mean? He's been in the industry a long time.
Adam, are you saying there's a secret sauce?
I think so. I think there's something secret. There's definitely a secret sauce. They're gonna squirt all over us. I'm telling you, and we're gonna
right in our faces, right? Open your mouth, son.
It just because you know what it is. It just comes off too predictable. That they're gonna come out with something. It's gonna be and everything's gonna be like and it's like, oh shit, the conversation hasn't changed. I mean, they want to do a game changer.
Well,
why does it have to be a game changer? They already said this is not for the general audience. This is just for the hardcore guys.
Yeah, exactly.
But the guys just want power. They don't give a fuck about
it's got to be something. Well, it's power, even power. You got to show something. You got to introduce something to spark that interest. I mean, you can't just
again. And I'm not going to go down that road again. They're not going to introduce an exclusive game with Scorpio. That's stupid.
I don't think it's it's not so much of an exclusive. I think it's more of
the whole idea is stupid. The fact that they're going to establish themselves as the highest powered console this late in the generation, when everybody has to worry about system parity and basically making a game that'll run on all of them, like, no, okay, you guys saw PlayStation 4 release at launch and a bunch of people ran to it because it was the most highly powered console, right? I understand that, but the landscape has shifted. You can't come in. You need to come out next generation with the highest powered console. And if what you're getting ready to do is just have iterative generations, prepare to have an angry and confused fan base, because all you're going to do is hold games back for 10 years.
And then you know, that's also why the Xbox 360 had it over the PlayStation 3, because they were the first guys out. PlayStation 3 was more powerful than the Xbox 360. But the thing is that being that there was more Xbox 360s out there, they're like, fuck this. We're not going to push this other thing.
Wasn't the issue also with developers having issues developing for the cell processor?
It's also that too. It's like why am I bothering to figure out how this stupid cell processor works when this other thing literally works almost exactly like a PC?
Yeah, they're going to take the path of least resistance.
Exactly. They're going to take the path of least resistance. It's funny because I was watching a thing about the specs of the original PlayStation compared to the Sega Saturn. By all the means, the Sega Saturn was way more powerful than the original PlayStation, but the original PlayStation was easier to develop for.
See, there you go. We have a similar question, but go ahead, Carlos.
What was the question again?
It was about Scorpio. What do you expect from the Scorpio shit?
Oh yeah, like I agree with what you said, Tony, about having two SKUs, and don't be surprised if they do that trick they did with the Xbox One S launch. Remember, they released the 1 terabyte and the 2 terabyte, and then the 2 terabyte was the only one that was available. What did he get it? I don't remember. Did he get it released a week earlier, or was it the one?
It was earlier. It was launched earlier.
Yeah. I could see that happening. Like they released a $600 one like a week earlier and shit, because motherfuckers are gonna buy that shit.
But that's what I was saying about the games. That's what I was saying, that they were going to try to do something like that. Not so much of an exclusive, but something like that. We'll have this one ready first, or it's going to be bundled with that version.
No, you will piss off your audience
for a week. If it's a week or two,
no. They have screamed from the fucking mountaintops that there will be no discernible advantage to having an elite console, and this has come from both camps. You won't get your games earlier. You won't get any extra gameplay features. This is purely a graphical upscaling machine. They have said that time and time again. It is in print so many fucking times that if you go back on that, shareholders will lose stock in your company.
I remember them saying
they said thank you.
Yeah, I remember when they said they couldn't do backward compatibility also, and that it always had to be online. And we saw how
But they weren't screaming it from the mountaintops.
Dude, I'd like to point that out. Why do you think Microsoft changed its opinion when it came out that it always had to be online? That it had to have the Kinect to work? That you always had to have the camera basically pointing in your living room, and people freaked the fuck out. There was a mass exodus. Microsoft stock dropped so severely that they had to react as a company and change their business plan. And that's why they actually ended up with a console with less power, not because they decided fuck power, but they decided to focus on features instead of power. And that backfired on them so horribly that they abandoned the feature thing. They had to fire their fucking, they had to fire what's his name?
Matrick, yeah.
Matrick.
Yeah, they had to fire Matrick before. Do you think they did that because he didn't do a good job? No, they did that to save face because people were selling their shares left and right, and their value as a company was plummeting. That is a perfect example of corporate America reacting to shareholders. They fucking threw that guy out to appease the shareholders.
Yeah, so I need to quickly jump in with this, right? Things are different with the Scorpio. Scorpio is not the thing that's going to, quote unquote, save Microsoft. Despite what you may have heard, right? And even us making fun here, the Xbox is not in a bad position right now. It's selling close to 30 million consoles. It is very healthy, right? The Scorpio, if it bombs, It's not going to affect Microsoft that much. If it succeeds, it'll maybe help, but it's not something that the company is writing on like they did with the Xbox One. It's a completely different scenario, because I know guys are saying this is it. This is the console that's going to close the gap. No, it isn't. This is not for the general audiences, guys. It's not like the savior console.
It has not. Yeah, it's like everybody's like thinking that second place is bad.
I think it's going to be like
second place is not bad.
It'll probably be like a Steam box.
Dude, here's an idea.
Yeah.
Like, spend your extra money on a TV that upscales everything to 60 frames per second.
Well, you mean the motion flow? And I don't know, man. That thing is bullshit. And again, I keep saying this.
Motion flow makes video games look so good. It makes TV look terrible, but
I don't know, man. But I'm not going to get into that.
But what about all that latency?
Yeah, exactly. I'm not going to get into that, but I just find it so frustrating how we're so focused on 4K. We haven't even mastered 1080p 60 frames a second on these fucking consoles. Now we're trying to jump to 4K.
About selling TV.
4K TV. Nobody has 4K TVs, man. It's only a couple people. Come on, man.
Just trying to sell TVs. That's it.
Dude, I'm convinced. I don't know that 4K is gonna fucking catch on. Like it hasn't even caught on. Most people don't have a 4K computer monitor.
I think it'll catch on, but just not for a while, man.
Dude, no. Okay, look, the jump in quality from analog TV to digital TV, and actually going from 720 to 1080, we have never sat around this long. Like, it has never taken this long for any technological jump to fucking hook on, other than 3D TVs, which were just a miserable failure. Yeah. I do not see the attachment rate that there's going to be a market demand for 4K that's going to sustain a viable ecosystem.
The thing is that because it involves every single company, broadcast company, all of them upgrading to new systems. Yes, okay, maybe the movies are being already done in 4K because a lot of times they're mastered in 4K, right? And then they're brought down to 1080 or whatever. But the thing is that broadcast TV has to move to 4K, all of it. That means the news,
all that stuff. It's not standard
yet. It's not
man.
fucking standard. And the moment that
they don't even offer a lot of it.
No. So I mean, like Tony's just talking about like not even long ago that you're on not Verizon, you're on Time Warner. What was Time Warner? They only just got 1080p.
They only just got 1080p standard.
It was on 1080i for the longest.
Yeah. It's still on 1080i. I'm talking about that's just standard now. But it wasn't standard for many, many years. 4K won't be standard for a long fucking time. So I just find it frustrating that everybody's trying to jump to 4K when most people can't even enjoy 4K. They don't have TVs for it.
I don't know, man. From the time that you had the ability
for movies, and then you'll be done.
Dude, from the time that you had the ability to get HD TV to the time that they started talking about they were phasing it out, and you had to actually call this number to get this analog box if you still wanted, low scale TV. Like, I don't feel like that was the time difference that it's taken 4K to catch on.
I completely and utterly disagree with everyone in this room.
Uh-oh. Is it because you got a 4K
because
TV,
he's the one man with the 4K
I have a 4K
TV, so that compensates for at least three of us. No, but like, the reason why I say this is because I think 4K, and I disagree with Brett, I think 4K is catching on more than HD caught on.
I disagree.
After the tube TVs, I guess I haven't analyzed this like in depth, so we need to see like when HD TVs became readily available, and then when they actually like started catching on and stuff. But I think more people are more conscious of technology. More and more people are getting into Facebook. My mom's on Facebook. My aunts are on Facebook. They know what Netflix is. They know what a lot of other stuff is. So I think with social media, they're getting more and more aware of what's in the know and what's like the latest stuff coming up. So I think to that extent, it helps perpetuate the market when it comes to the new stuff, And my parents have a 4K TV. They got one before I did, and I was shocked as hell.
Did they understand what 4K is?
No, but they had one.
They probably don't even know they probably don't even know the difference between it. I remember my father was like, "Hey, I got this 1080p thing, but everything's supposed to look clear." I'm like, "Dad, you got to upgrade the cable plan in order to do to get everything to look clear." I was like, "Oh."
Everything has to work. Yeah. Same thing with cable. It's like, oh, I have a 4K TV. Well, besides the fact you need the content, you need the 4K box to support it that can push it up. Then you have to make sure that you get the 4K content.
Because
when
was the last time? I mean, when did 4K TV start selling?
1996, July 23rd, 1996 was the introduction of the first 4K TV. That same year, Congress introduced the first telecommunications bill, Telecommunications Act of 1996, with the original transition date of having all television brought to digital signals by 2006. However, this transition date was set back 3 times, first to December 2008, then to February 2009, eventually finally ending in June 12th, 2009. So from 1996 to 2009, first HD TV arrived on the scene in 1996, and by 2009, it was mandated that all broadcast companies had to be broadcasting in HD. So that was 13 years. How long ago was the first 4K TV introduced?
All right, so you were talking about 1080p first, right?
No, I'm just talking about digital signal.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, just digital.
That was when the first HD TV was made. Yes.
Gotcha. Yeah, 720p back in those days. Yeah.
720p.
4K was invented.
That bullshit.
Yeah, when was 4K invented? Let's look this up. We're gonna get some facts here tonight, boy.
And there's 2 levels of 4K. There's 4K and 4K 2.0.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Well, let's start with 4K. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt. First 4K home theater projector was released by Sony in 2012. Projection movies in 2011. YouTube began supporting 4K video uploads in 2010. The first 4K cinematography equipment was released in 2003. So the introduction of 4K as a format was released in 2003, and it has been 13 years. So no, in fact,
yeah.
There you go. Proof positive. Digital.
Nah, don't give me that bullshit, Brett. Come on. They weren't selling 4K TVs in 2003, man.
No, he's talking about the first
technology,
the introduction of the technology to the time where it became
he's talking about.
But we're talking about having people getting TVs in their own homes.
Well, no, what I'm talking about is from the invention of HD TV to the time where it was federally mandated to be in every house was 13 years. The invention of 4K as a resolution till now has been 13 years, and it is not federally mandated.
But it was never federally mandated to get an HD TV.
No, he's talking about when.
No, it wasn't.
When it's 4K.
He was talking about mandated that you broadcast in HD.
Yeah, he's talking about standard. And by the way, even though it's been 13 years, I still don't see 4K becoming standard for another 3 years minimum. You know, I really don't see that happening. But you're talking about just when it started selling.
I'm talking about the time from its inception to the time.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but Carlos is bringing up a different argument, which I do want to touch on. When did 4K TV start selling to the mass or general public? I could be wrong. Wasn't it like 3 years ago or something? The first time?
Like 2-3 years ago, maybe.
7 years ago, 2010.
Yeah.
No, but that's just projectors. Like, no one buys projectors except for like.
Yeah,
okay, but when I'm talking about,
they're talking movie projectors, like, you know, they're talking that sort of stuff.
Yeah, but I'm not talking. Okay, when I'm talking about the first HD TV, though, HD wasn't readily available in 1996. That was when it was invented.
Yeah, but no one's telling you that it was.
They didn't even become available until after 1998, and nobody even began broadcasting until 1999.
So what I'm trying to say is, when did HD TV start selling? When
did they become available, or when did they start selling worldwide?
When did it become standard?
I started carrying it.
I don't know.
They started.
When did they start? Like, when were shops like Walmarts and Targets and Best Buys selling HD TVs? And when did everyone start getting HD TVs?
They started the first ones you could buy. The first commercially available HD TV was in 1998.
And
they didn't begin broadcasting until November. There wasn't even such a thing as an HD signal that was being broadcast until November of 1998.
Oh, 1998, damn.
So you can, if you're saying when did they get in every store, probably not until 2000. But then I do have to point out that the congressional mandate had it that everybody had to be broadcasting in HD by then 2006. So if you're talking about the time between when it became massively available on the shelves to the point where it became mandated that you had to broadcast in it, you're talking a period of 6, maybe 7 years at the most.
I guarantee you that in 3 to 4 years, everyone in this room will have a 4K TV.
I can see that.
And it's not going to get federally mandated.
No, he's talking about broadcasting shit.
No, I'm saying in 3
No,
and 4
it hasn't. No,
4K
the thing is that.
Well, I think
I was
the
gonna
big
federally
issue,
mandate you
though,
to buy a fucking TV, dude.
Yeah,
I was
like
talking about
the
that.
issue
reason.
is the
bandwidth
bandwidth quality.
I'm talking about broadcasting.
Yeah, we're getting off
Broadcasting
track,
is
though.
important though. Like,
Yeah.
why would they federally mandate that you have to broadcast in HD unless there were HD TVs in all the homes?
Yeah, that's
like,
a good point.
If you're talking about an attachment rate, you don't make a stupid law that you don't force companies to broadcast in a format that nobody's using. That's
That's a good point.
I'm saying that like for HD TVs, federally mandating broadcast companies to broadcast their channels in HD exacerbated the people getting HD TVs. I'm saying
let me
that-
put this in a different light. They stopped broadcasting in standard definition in 2006.
right.
Unless you sent in a coupon to get a special box that made the transition for you and had special plugs. Y'all remember the fucking coupon commercials?
Yeah, I remember that shit.
That happened in 2006. They stopped broadcasting on tube TVs in 2006. It wasn't like you had the choice at that point. Every TV, every house in America had to either have an HD TV or go through this convoluted series of steps that nobody fucking went through because when they all had HD TVs. So you can say definitively, just about every house in America had an HD TV in it by 2006. And if it wasn't commercially available on shelves until 1999, that is a 7-year gap between the time where it became available and it was in everybody's home. And you cannot tell me that 4K has a faster attachment rate because it's been out longer and not everybody has a 4K TV. I'm talking straight facts right now.
But it's selective facts. You're saying, yeah, the first 4K TV was available in 2003, but I couldn't buy it. No one in here.
No, that's me giving you the benefit of the doubt. YouTube began supporting 4K videos in 2010. It's been a thing with computer monitors for years, and it still hasn't caught on. Like YouTube was giving you 4K videos.
The general thing is 4K is not going to catch on like the way normal HD TV did for a long time. It's
I'll make this claim though. I bet 4K will catch on with us faster than HD TVs did with us.
All right, get back to me when they start doing it. Broadcasting in 4K.
No. I'm saying, Tony, you'll get a 4K TV. So the gap between you getting an HD TV between the gap when 4K TVs became readily available and you getting one is shorter than when HD TVs became readily available and you got an HD TV.
That's already disproven.
Yeah,
the HD TV was out for less than 3 years before I made the transition, and 4K has been out for readily available for more than 3 years.
I got it the year 4K came out.
Okay, hold on. When was the first commercially available HD TV available? 1998, right? You said?
Yeah, the first, and that doesn't mean like they're on all store shelves. That means the first one you could get in the US.
Okay, no, I'm talking about like store shelves wise. Like
that'd be 2000.
Okay, 2000. So I got my first HD TV in 2008, right? And when did 4K come out? Like the first readily available commercial 4K? Walmart, all that shit. Because Carlos may be right about this one, at least for me.
It's tough to tell because they were available in 2003. YouTube began supporting them in 2010.
Because I'm just talking about me. I didn't even hear about 4K until maybe 4 years ago.
In November 2012, YouTube started to use the VP9 video compression standard, saying it was more suitable than 4K. Movies began projecting at 4K in 2011. So he was offering 4K projectors as early as 2004.
Yeah, actually, you know what, Carlos? I'm going to give you a date right now. 2019 is when I'm going to get a 4K TV. There
PS5?
You go. Huh? Yeah, PS5. I always get a new TV when I get a new console, right? PS4 Pro doesn't count. So there you go. So yeah, it's like 2 years lesser. You know,
and this is the last thing that I'll add to it. We
'cause
live
we're
in a
off topic right now.
yeah, I know. Like we live in a society where a lot of people buy cell phones every year. So technology is much more disposable than it used to be. Tube TVs could have lasted you more than 10 years. Now TVs don't last you 10 years.
Right,
And
and
that's all I gotta say.
on that, do you think people would be more willing to buy a $600, $500 Xbox because technology is more disposable?
No, consoles are different.
Okay, it's still technology. Just had to throw it out there, you know, because I believe that's the reason why iterative consoles could thrive, because everything's just disposable now. You know,
it seems like there's a really low support rate. Like, even though 4K has been around for a long time, nobody's been supporting it. In fact, like Ultra HD Blu-rays didn't actually start showing up until last year.
That's right. Yeah, even Blu-rays weren't standard.
And
4K,
Microsoft and Sony didn't release much in the name in anything before that. In fact, Netflix only streamed House of Cards and Breaking Bad in 4K as far back as 2014. It's not being supported by a lot, and I think that actually would bring us right back to the broadcast standard thing, because that probably had a lot to do with it.
Yeah, by the way, Barry Burton goes, take this conversation to a local Best Buy and see if you can make a salesperson's head explode. All right, man, let's move on, man. So yeah, this week will be interesting. If this thing is supposedly gonna, the news about Scorpio is supposedly gonna drop on Thursday. Good, because that's Throwdown Day. I can't wait. All right, next question here. Last couple of questions from G Megaforce. All right, this is an interesting one. Okay,
Never heard of him.
Yeah, he's the guy that won like 2 contests already. Anyway, okay, is the Wii U to the Switch the smallest generational gap in console history? By the way, this is a little bit misleading, so let me finish reading the whole thing. Okay, the Wii U is about on par with last-gen consoles, and the Switch is using mobile tech that is only 1/8 the power of the already weak Xbox. So is the Switch barely an upgrade to the Wii U, similar to the way GameCube was to the Wii? So he's saying, is it the smallest leap technological wise?
Right, you guys know that this isn't a fucking console. It's a mobile device.
That's not how they.
But some people treat it like a console. It's fair to call it both.
It's all how they're pitching it. The media is pitching the way Sony's pitching it. They're pitching it.
And I understand that, but that's like saying, do you expect a laptop to be as powerful as a PC, even though
some of them advertise it? If you get an Alienware, some of them advertise it.
You're an idiot. If you think your laptop can be as powerful as your PC, then you are a goddamn idiot who does not understand how
Alienwares are very powerful.
Dude, I don't care. I can build a tower better than any Alienware laptop you could ever make, because I have more room to put more tech into it. It is a fundamental law. You cannot just compress technology freely. Better technology takes up more space, and then you miniaturize things. I want to say there's a fundamental engineering law behind this. You cannot have something small and portable that is as powerful as something large and not portable. Period. The sky, in other news, the sky is blue and room temperature is about 70 degrees.
Correct. We wouldn't have any of the things now. We would have still been with mainframes if that was the case.
No, because they've been miniaturizing technology.
Yeah,
but you cannot tell me.
And they gotten better.
So you show me a laptop that runs better. You show me a high-end laptop that runs better than the best high-end PC.
They're on par, most of them. If you get a high-end where you're spending $3,000-$4,000 on a laptop, damn right.
And you're going to get the same technology that if you spent $3,000 to $4,000 on a PC.
You won't have the bays. You won't have extra expansion slots. But when it comes to just standalone out of the box, yeah, you're going to have that.
Dude,
you're going to have the memory. You're going to have
to build a PC. I guarantee you it'll run better than any laptop.
These days, I'll bring my buddy Ron on, who did spend $4,000 on a super laptop.
Dude, I can mineral oil liquid cool submerge a PC to the point where I can overclock it way beyond factory specifications and run that thing at almost 400 degrees. You can't do that with a laptop. Just the dispersion of heat equations alone. The more power you're generating, the more heat you're generating. You have to channel that out. You can channel heat out faster with larger fans or liquid cooling technology than you can with just having airflow slots. So by the very least, you can run a PC hotter than you can a laptop and pull more power out of it.
In general, Brett is
exact same equipment.
In general, Brett is right, but there are some instances where people's laptops are more powerful than some people's PCs.
Oh yeah, but no, I'm saying like if you give me a budget, or if you put the same level of technology in both, like if you're going top of the line versus top of the line, you're going to get more power out of something that's bigger.
So
like,
so the whole beginning of this was that you're saying that the Switch should not be considered a console; it should be considered a handheld.
It should not be considered on par with stationary non-mobile consoles, because you're comparing apples and oranges. The closest that you could compare this thing to would be a Vita or other handhelds. It is limited by the fact that it is mobile, and people seem to not understand that. And this is more along like me saying like, well, what the fuck did you honestly expect an Xbox that you can carry around with you? Because
I think that's what a lot of people
did.
And that was stupid.
And you know what, Brett? According to Nintendo's unveiling, they showed a video of Skyrim running like you did on an Xbox.
Skyrim is a dated game at this point.
No, but the Nintendo is trying to put in people's heads, hey, this is a console you can take outdoors. A console you could take outdoors. Well, even Nintendo
but it's still going to be held back by the fact that it's mobile, just like all mobile technology.
Yeah, so you're just saying this kind of question isn't applicable. That's what you're saying.
Well, it should be obvious that the Nintendo Switch is not going to be a full-on console, because it's a mobile thing, because it's so small, because you're not going to be able to just miniaturize technology. To a certain extent, you could, because the some of the hardware in the consoles are dated, so you could miniaturize, and you probably have a better return then. But to expect a full console experience out of anything that you can hold in your hands is just ridiculous, and like that's just people don't know how science works at that point.
It runs better than a Wii U, which is a console.
What's that?
What happened to you, man? You garbled up a little bit.
I said it runs better than a Wii U, which is a console.
Does it though?
That's progression in miniaturization technology, and that was also the fact that the Wii U was severely underpowered. Like
the Wii U was
the Wii U was more powerful than the PS3 and Xbox One 360, though. just a little bit.
Yeah, but it came out so much later that the technology was.
Chris was here. He could break all this down, because I don't know how much more powerful the Switch is to the Wii U, if it even is more powerful.
I think it's just a fraction.
It's actually a fraction. Just like it's.
Man, you have to dip out and come back, man. You're garbling up hardcore.
Oh, am I?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on.
All right. Yeah, it's just
a little bit. Like, it's honestly not that far of a jump from the Wii U. Like, it's.
Yeah, so would it be the smallest jump in console?
Not well, and this is why I make this point. If you look at Nintendo's history with their handhelds, no, they release a new fucking Game Boy every couple of years.
By the way, people, just so you know, Brett calls every Nintendo handheld a Game Boy, because I know somebody's going to go, they don't release Game Boys. What are you talking about?
Everyone except the Switch.
Yeah, right.
Which is definitely not a Game Boy.
The Switch is a Game Boy.
No, it's not.
I still consider it a Game Boy. It's just got a lot of extra features.
Nope. Till it can close up and fit in my pocket, that shit is not a boy. That's a man.
Like the original Game Boy closed up and fit in your pocket.
Damn right it did. It fit in my big baggy cargo pants.
Yo, bringing it back,
son. You are not talking old school right now, because the old Game Boys did not.
My UFO pants. Where are my UFO pants? Because last I checked, I could fit that shit in my
I don't remember being able to fold my Game Boy Color in half. Can you?
I could put it in my pocket. I can't put a Switch in my pocket.
No, but I'm happy about that, because to do that,
and that's you.
You have to make the screen the size of the Vita, and then it would just.
I have friends that have it, and I'm watching them treat this like a little baby. They have to wrap it up. They have to put it in a case because it's wide, and when they take everything up, it's a delicate device, and that's fine. That's So
essentially, they're treating it like an iPad.
Exactly. That's how they're caring for it, and that's fine. Care for it. That's your product. You spent money, do it, but. It's not a Game Boy.
I mean, that big isn't
my Game Boy SP.
Did you really not fit that in your jacket pocket? I mean,
it's wider than that.
You gotta take the Joy-Cons off of it, though.
Yeah, you gotta take the Joy-Cons off if you're gonna put it in your fucking pocket, man.
Okay, yeah, take it apart. Not a Game Boy.
I mean, have. I mean, it needs its own purse. That's what the Breath of the Wild Special Edition has. It's a purse.
Yeah, but anyway, just to answer the question, yes, it is the smallest leap in technology, but it's because it's a different kind of technology. That's why.
Yeah, and I wouldn't have considered it like this part of the same natural process if Nintendo didn't advertise this as a console as well.
That's the thing. Nintendo's pushing it as a console.
They pushed like 3DS. They pushed that as a handheld. They said this is our latest handheld. They didn't say console. They're pushing this one as a console.
Yeah, pushing this one as a console. And the thing is that the other thing about it is that there's
Game Boy a mobile entertainment platform.
No, it's a handheld.
Didn't they call it a mobile entertainment system?
Just like how the Nintendo was an entertainment system. Come on, Brad.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, no, I know, but that's what I'm saying. Like I did back from the Game Boy days. Like,
he's
you guys are getting caught up in words.
They use the word game in it,
but that leads to what Brett is saying. It's like Nintendo's calling it a console, but it is
alternative facts. People, come on.
Here's the thing about the one thing about the Switch that I thought what they were going to do, because what they were going to do is that somehow that the doctor mode would be in some way different from the actual handheld.
Yeah, that's
mode.
probably the biggest disappointment I have with the Switch.
You guys aware the original Game Boy is called a handheld game console?
What happened?
The original Game Boy is called a handheld game console.
Ah, okay. But again,
tell me how that's different from a mobile game console.
Yeah, no, but again, remember that was a different term back then than it is now. Now we're saying console.
Okay, now you guys are going to split hairs on words and then say
no. You know what it is? We're debating fucking marketing terms.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
We were debating stupid marketing terms because they didn't want to call it something. Call it exactly what it is. And the whole reason why the Switch is the way is seen the way it is because Nintendo didn't want to fuck with their other part of their business, which was the handheld business. So they're saying this shit is a console and that thing is the handheld, which they both are handhelds or mobile consoles.
Thank you, Manny. I agree with that. That's all I'm saying.
It's the only reason. Again, it's all has to do with the marketing terms of it, because the fact that you could stick it to a TV somehow makes it a fucking a home gaming console.
But how do people who own this thing not see that? Is my question. Like, you picked it up, you put it in your hands, you know what it is.
Yeah, no. Here's the thing, Brett. When I unboxed it, I'm like, this is a fucking tablet. What the fuck, man? But at the same time, Nintendo's running around saying it's a console. So I don't know what to make of this thing.
No, you do know what to make. You do know what to make of it. Yeah, it's marketing speech.
Nintendo ran around calling you.
But again, going back, how am I playing it? I'm playing it on my TV. So it's like, on a controller. I'm like,
you know what? You can also play your iPad on your fucking TV too.
I don't have a fucking iPad. Get out of here.
Yeah,
any sort of iPad, your fucking
just sync it up. I do it.
Any of your Google device, you could connect any one of those things to your TV. Does that make it a fucking VCR?
Yeah, I have a really great analogy for this that I can't say on air, so I'll tell you off air. But okay, I generally you guys right. It is a handheld, but at the same time, it is the successor to the Wii U, so the comparisons aren't invalid.
And the hilarious thing is that it's what everybody thought the fucking Wii U was.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So if we think like that, I mean, then we most likely later down the road will get a new 3DS.
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so. This thing's going to replace the 3DS.
They're going to slowly phase the 3DS out.
Yeah,
they're only saying now, which they've lied before. They're only saying now, oh yes, there will be a market for the 3DS and for the Wii U. The thing is, the 3DS to date is still a
market for the 3DS and Switch. By the way, just get that clear.
The Switch, sorry,
but
Switch.
Annie, you're right. Just think about it.
Go ahead. The 3DS is still killing. Like, it's selling way more than PlayStation's right now. it's doing insane
In
because
some cases, yeah, some months it does sell better. Yeah,
Okay,
it does sell better. But the thing is,
based off the software, people like.
but
that's-
as Chris pointed out, overall, even with some of the higher dips, it has been on a decline. So we got to.
Obviously it has been a climb, but what Nintendo is doing is they're keeping it around and saying that the Switch is a console, so that they don't hurt any of the business that they're continuing to get from the 3DS.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. I also
want that they did a Wii call of the Wii U. That tells me they think this is a console, or else they could just run them side by side. Like, yeah, it's there. We have a Wii U, we have a 3DS, we have a fucking Switch, we have everything.
Why does it matter what we call it though? Like, you know what it is.
Call it. We don't give a shit what they go. They can call it the Gigibot. I don't give a fuck. You know, it's just how they market it and how they put the spin. You know, they replace one, they stop talking about it.
In your hands and you carry it around and you put it in a dock and it plays on your TV. The spin is exactly the same marketing spin, promising pretty much exactly the same stuff that they promised with the Vita. Everybody's getting caught up on this word console and making a big fucking deal about it. Like you do use your other senses for input, right? Like you look at it,
like
you
an
hold
iPhone
it,
and iPad. What's the difference? Size.
What's that?
It's like an iPhone and iPad then.
Yeah, except it's dedicated exclusively to gaming and it has better inputs. I'm not going to play anything on an iPhone because the controls are absolutely fucking atrocious. I would rather use
a controller. That's it.
What if we decided to stick some Joy-Cons on the side of an iPad?
If Nintendo could have done that, I would have been. Even if other than Nintendo had done that, like, and other people have tried. They've tried to make controllers that your phone slips into and all that other shit. But the problem is, first of all, it's not dedicated to doing that. Secondly, generally doesn't my phone does not have the power that my Switch does. I don't know if y'all are running super phones, but an iPhone and a Switch are vastly different things. An iPad maybe, but you would have had to physically design it in order to accommodate gaming and a console or excuse me, controllers, and then you'd have to have the support for it. Like, the whole point is that it's dedicated to doing this one thing. I mean, what was the whole point of having a Vita when you had a smartphone?
What was that
exact same
thing?
That
was a question, and a lot of people think that's why it failed. Tony, what was that report that you read off a few weeks back? Remember, it was like what developers were producing games for.
Oh yeah. Only 3% were like. Here's the funny thing: only 3% were making games for Switch, but like the vast majority of developers were actually working on mobile games.
I find that interesting compared to like.
The thing is about the mobile game thing is that there's not a lot to entry. I mean, mobile games could be like a 2-second experience for mom and dad to play while they're waiting to go to the fucking dentist. You know, those, I mean, obviously those things are games, but these are not like full on experience, like full on game, you know, gaming experiences that are, you know, AAA or whatever gaming experiences that you expect that are on most consoles.
Yeah, I mean, how many Flappy Birds do you think they'd even let on the Switch? I mean, don't get me wrong. They're porting a lot of indie titles, but the indie titles that they're porting seem to be ones that have been proven, like people want. You know, they're bringing Stardew Valley over. You know, it's not like they're just throwing everything on there the way that
I mean,
you have an open market on mobile. Like I can literally take a shit in a box and call it a game and
well,
sell
yeah,
it on a mobile site.
it's no rules pasta on a mobile, so you just know there's not that much to entry. I mean, Nintendo obviously was notoriously difficult to deal with when it came to development. You know, when it came to developing for them, you had to have a certain size studio and all that other bullshit.
Yeah. Also, I think there's because of that lower entry point, a lot of people develop for mobile or develop for, you know, PC indie games. And then when they hit critical success, they try and port over a lot of these things. So those numbers can be a little bit misleading because if you take those numbers at face value, just all of the ports that I've heard about coming to the Switch would be the entirety of that 3% and then some.
I see what you're saying. All right. Moving on here.
Also, before we move on, I want to.
Yeah.
Even by definition, none of us are right and all of us are right because the definition for a console is either an upright case that houses keyboards, a controlling mechanism of an organ, and that for which the organ is played, a combination of readouts and displays of an input device by which an operator can monitor and interact with a system, or a cabinet designed to rest directly on the floor. So by one definition, a cabinet designed to rest directly on the floor, it is not a console, but by definition of a combination of readouts or displays and an input device by which an operator can monitor and interact with said system, it is a console.
crazy. So that's why there's confusion, there's going to continue to be confusion too. But anyway, let's move on here.
Because it's a fucking synonym.
All right, let's move on because the last two questions here are we got to get deep into these.
Or antonym.
Right? Okay, what if Nintendo and Sega didn't make the mistakes they made in the 5th generation? If Nintendo made the Nintendo 64 a CD-based system and the Saturn was more focused on 3D and launched in the fall instead of summer, what do you think would have happened with the PlayStation, and what would Nintendo and Sega be like today?
Well, let's go way back then.
What
if they merged? Like if they got what they wanted?
Well, Sony and Nintendo?
Sony and Sega. Let's say if Sony and Sega got what they wanted. They wanted to work together and make a console. If it wasn't for Sega Japan, everything could have been different.
Wait, hold on a second. Like, don't you mean what if Nintendo had accepted the original PlayStation design? And
we got to go back a little bit for history, right? Yeah. Okay, so what happened was Nintendo was going to work with Sony to make a CD-based system for the Super Nintendo. Actually, I think it was an add-on originally, right?
Yeah, it was going to be an add-on.
Really going to be an add-on, right? But that deal fell through for whatever reason, right?
They felt that Sony was getting too big. Mr. A.
Okay, yeah.
Sony was getting too big with the Walkman and all that. So
and also Nintendo wasn't ready to move away from cartridge-based systems.
They went with Philips. They were ready.
So what happened was after that, Sega was like, hey, maybe we should partner with Sony. We got the Saturn coming out, but even the Japanese team were very happy with they were coming with the Saturn. Tom Kalinske, Sega of America's president, was like, I don't know about this. Let's try to team up with Sony on their CD system, right? But the problem is, Ken Kutaragi wanted an all 3D system, and the Sega guys wanted a 2D beast system, right? They couldn't reconcile differences. That split. So then. So Sega went to Adam, what was it? Silicon Graphics, right? They went to Silicon Graphics. Hey, let's work together. And the Silicon Graphics guys was like, hey, listen, whatever you're developing for that Saturn, we guarantee you that our chip is more powerful and it'll be cheaper, right? So Sega America was like, okay, let's go through with it. But Japan interfered. That didn't happen. So what did Silicon Graphics do? They hooked up with Nintendo, and they've got the Nintendo 64, right? So the question's interesting because you really have to see it from what actually happened, right? So what if we would have had a Sega PlayStation, right? Adam and we talked about this before. Yeah. I predict that would have killed Nintendo right there.
It would have been done. It would have been because they already said that Sega liked Sony's design, so it would have looked like the PlayStation.
Yeah,
so
except it would have had all those bomb ass Sega games. It would have been over. I guess for the spirit of go ahead, Brett.
Sega didn't necessarily they still had the Dream, they didn't die until the Dreamcast. We're
talking about specifically for the Saturn era. We're talking about that era specifically.
Well, I know, but the question makes it sound like
it's all a trick. I hate to use a Ronald Reagan quote, but it's all a trickle down effect when it comes to this sort of situation, where it's the mistakes of all the previous things before, which caused the PlayStation to exist.
Yeah, that's the thing. I needed to bring up Sega into it because Sega is a factor in all of this, obviously.
Remember, Sony didn't even want to make a console. There were people back there were like, no, we just work money software.
Yeah.
They were like, this money on software. We'll make games. They made Night Trap and stuff for Sega. That's all they wanted to do. They didn't want it to get into it. That was done on the down low. A separate team was making it. Say, hey, look what we made, and that guy's lucky he didn't get fired.
That's what actually happened. Yeah. What if the Nintendo 64 actually would have been CD based? Would it have had a better PlayStation, shot? Right? Just a Nintendo system. You still had Sony out there, right? They still had PlayStation. You still had the Sega Saturn as it came out. Actually, no. Let's go for the two.
Wasn't Turbo Graphics around like that? We had all the little ones.
No. Turbo Graphics was before that.
If Nintendo were a CD-based system, it would have been through partnering with Sony.
Hey, Brett, you sound like you're in another room, man.
Do I?
Yeah.
I switched my wireless headphones.
You're like, I'm
letting the dog out while staying on the pod.
I got you. I guess just talk a little louder and you'll be all right.
Okay. I guess what I'm saying is it seems like you're putting forth an impossible scenario, because wouldn't any disc-based system brought out by Nintendo because of the history have been made by Sony? Or are you saying in an alternate universe where Nintendo then partnered with somebody else or made their own technology?
They made their own shit, yeah.
Yeah, they were all about their own shit, their own cards, everything.
Yeah, so the thing is that there was the decision whether to do a console, do
I don't
what
think
is
they
it?
could do
To do
disc-based
cartridge?
technology by themselves, though.
Why wouldn't they?
Because they had to reach out to Sony to do it for them.
Did they have to, or did Sony? Wasn't it Sony that approached them first?
Sony approached them because they were trying to sell media and they're trying to sell the industry on discs. And that disc was the future. Forget about VHS. Yeah, we fucked up with Betamax, but look, disc is the new future. So they wanted to get into that so that way they can get that into markets and they can sell them and they can just, solve for it. That's where the money is. And that's where the partnership was. But
maybe Nintendo wouldn't. Maybe Nintendo would have made CDs anyway because, like, hey, that's their technology. Fuck that. Even with the GameCube, they didn't make CDs. Really,
Even
those
if
many
wanted
discs.
to, did they have the technology at that point?
Yeah, maybe they didn't. Maybe Nintendo would have said, "Fuck it." Maybe there is no scenario where Nintendo would have made a CD-based system unless they had help from somebody. Could be that.
Well, they still partnered. They partnered with Philips, so it wasn't like they scrapped the whole idea when they kicked Sony to the curb. They went with Philips, so they still wanted to do it.
Have CD-based technology? I thought they were a big VCR company back then.
No, Philips CDI, bro. What are you talking about?
That was a system that came out.
Yeah.
Wasn't that later?
No, I was around that same time. Philips CDI came out at the same time, bro.
Yeah.
Okay, so they were developing disc technology at the same time Sony was then.
Everybody was developing this technology at the same time.
It's just Sony was trying to partner up with some of the big guys that already had a connection to the market, and that was Nintendo. And then when Nintendo gave them the snub, they were like, "All right, we'll go with Sega." And then Sega was like, "Okay, cool."
Remember, before these systems, and correct me if I'm wrong, but around the same time, you had the Philips CDI and the 3DO disc-based systems. So these things existed already, So just keep that in mind. So, but again, Nintendo being Nintendo, they could have just said, "Fuck it. If we can't make it, we're just gonna stick to our guns." Who knows? But what about the other equation here, Sega Saturn? If they would have had a 3D system, I think it would have been more competitive with the PlayStation. PlayStation looks so much better than those Saturn games, and a lot of those games couldn't be on Saturn because they just couldn't run well, So
the thing about the Saturn is not that because they also didn't run well, is because nobody wanted to bother to figure out the friggin' crazy way that thing was designed. That's the thing. They had multiple graphics processors that could work, but the thing is that all these different things could work, but they didn't. Obviously for a company to figure that stuff out, it took way too long to get them all to work.
This is what I'm talking about. Again, maybe not the Scorpio too much because it's probably going to be easier to develop for it, but why would you put extra effort into a system with a smaller install base? That's what happened with the Saturn. The thing was it was the cell processor of its time, basically. Nobody wanted to develop for that shit, so they didn't bother with it. Why do you think every other Tomb Raider after one came out on Sony? Because they weren't trying to hang with that shit.
They also used a different sort of polygon. Whereas Sony used to use triangles. Friggin' the Sega Saturn had squared polygons.
Yeah, that's right. It was very interesting. So the thing is with the Sega Saturn, okay, you can make it a more 3D system, but it needed to be easier to develop for first. That's the thing.
And that was the thing and they threw a lot of all that additional processing into there because they saw what Sony had. But if you look pound for pound, the Sega Saturn has a lot more stuff inside of it that would make, is a lot more powerful. But most of those guys didn't even know how to take advantage of it.
Yeah, exactly. This is tied into our last question here, by the way. But yeah, I'm from what I'm seeing in our conversation, I don't think either of these would have came out even imagining it. Like, I don't think we would have seen a CD based Nintendo 64. I don't think we would have seen a 3D based Sega Saturn. That's what it seems like to me.
Damn.
But I guess for the sake of conversation, it's like what would that be like? I mean,
it would give Sony competition. That's what Sony cleaned house that generation.
Yeah, it would have given Sony definitely. I mean, the thing is that especially if it was a Nintendo 64 that was CD based, right? Then they would have a lot of that additional space that they could work with. You know? Imagine imagine the Nintendo 64 with the storage space of something like a PlayStation.
Wow! Imagine that those games wouldn't have looked as shitty. I'll tell you
so
that.
I'm looking on eBay, right? Just a Dreamcast, just to see like what something like that with like 5 games, 2 controllers, the memory card, all this stuff. We're looking at the most $90.
Why are we talking about that?
I'm just thinking about Saturn. I'm just thinking about where these consoles are now. Like, do people hold them in high regard now?
Listen, at the end of the, we'll just squeeze this in really quickly because of we just want to sidetrack for a second. At the end of the Dreamcast, there was so many fucking Dreamcasts around.
Yeah.
That there, you can literally not walk like they were literally sell. You could buy a full Dreamcast inside of a box with the pack in and all that shit right now for cheap.
Yep. There were so many of them, you know.
It was so many of them, but we're not talking about that. But and then let's talk about the other thing. What was with the Sega, the Sega PlayStation, right?
Yeah.
That version of it. Again, you would have had all the games that Sega had been playing with, you know, what Sony been playing with, right?
Yeah.
That would have been Jumping Flash. That would have been fucking Loaded. That would have been all those games. There was nothing in that scenario that said that those games wouldn't exist.
Yeah, that's true. So you would have had the Sega game. Go ahead, Brett.
You would have had you would have probably had whatever Sony first party things as well as the Sega thing.
Yep, exactly. You're 100% right.
Actually, if I think about it, I think in that scenario, I don't think Xbox would exist.
No,
No,
it wouldn't.
You would have kept the two powerhouse consoles that would have essentially kept up with both of their systems by partnering with more advanced technologies, and we would still essentially have that Nintendo Sega / Sony dynamic.
Mhm.
Sony would capture all of the icons from Sega, and Nintendo would continue their icons, but actually build systems that were more technologically superior, and you'd still see them battling it out. There never would have been a market share for Microsoft to break into.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah, because and then also and because of the failure of the Saturn, that is the section where where Microsoft was able to bust in. They were already kind of in there already because the Sega Dreamcast was literally a Windows machine.
I keep trying to remember back of what motivated Microsoft to jump into the market. What made them want to make an Xbox?
I think it was the fact that you remember that
Sega died.
Wasn't it because of PC gaming? Like
It was
something.
Yeah.
It was a couple of different things because you remember.
I know Bill Gates was against it. That much I remember that he was against.
Well, no, because well, you know what it is because they said that we have something that can kick Sony's ass, and obviously that's for in a lot of cases that Sony was their competition because they wanted to get into the living room, and that was the whole thing that with the original Xbox, where it's like. Bill wanted to get into the living, wanted to get Windows into your home TV, not it just being a PC.
Yeah,
and that was the Xbox. The Xbox was the gateway to that. And if you think about it, the Xbox One was still kind of continuing that old adage from before, where they wanted the Xbox to be the entertainment console, the everything entertainment console. And that's still what the Xbox One was kind of continuing with, where it was like, TV and all that other bullshit, and it plays games.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on. Last question here. Another hypothetical question here about the cell processor this time. All right. I was reading an article the other day about processing architecture and how important it is to developers and their ability to tap into the power of the processor. The cell designed by IBM was one of the most advanced and complicated processors in history, and many articles discuss how it was never fully optimized. Okay, so the question is how dominant could PS3 have been had the cell architecture has been less of a secret, or if the developers had been less lazy? Imagine the hidden secrets still stored within the PS3. Could this also happen with Scorpio? If it's Armani, let me finish this. Could this also happen with Scorpio if this architecture is complicated? People, we keep telling you, just because the system is more powerful doesn't make it be more successful. Let's say, for the sake of argument, we
saw what the level of the cell processor reached whenever you saw a fucking Uncharted game.
Yeah, we saw
any of the first party games that you saw on the PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 3. That was it.
For the sake of argument, let's say you could tap that power from day one, right? Okay, sure. The system still would have been $600 fucking. No, the game still would have been that shitty launch lineup games. It wouldn't have made a difference.
It wouldn't have made any sort of difference.
I almost disagree with that. This is the beginning of someone.
Brett, speak louder, man. We can't hear you.
Again, but
This is the beginning of a certain emergent technology. I think this was when you started to see system parity really become a thing, and if the secrets of the cell processor were a big selling point, and they pulled market share. I think we might have seen the beginning of a new dynamic where they coded for the upscale version and then downscaled it. So we could actually in a parallel universe see games being developed for the more powerful system and then scaled down, as opposed to just the regular system, because there might have been more demand for it the whole time.
But again, that price point would keep people away, man.
Here's the other.
It would have built a different niche. It would have been. They would have started with the whole premium game experience that we're just starting to get into now, and people are paying $600 for. They're going to pay $600 for a fucking Scorpio. It would have changed the way events on the order in which they unfolded, but it wouldn't have changed the events that happened themselves, I don't think.
I don't know, man. So you're telling me by that logic that means the Scorpio is gonna do gangbusters, is gonna like destroy.
No, because we've already established that it is already now a thing that you design for the lowest common denominator. If when the market was still being formed, you established it as the standard that you have a high quality game and that's worth developing for. At some point in time, developers came to the conclusion that it wasn't worth putting in the extra money and time. There's a very small chance that if you had full access to the cell architecture, you could have taught your core audience that yes, the visuals do make a difference, and that would have made enough dent in the market that developers would pay attention to different versions of the game. But as the market is laid out, we've all kind of gotten used to this is the most economical way to do it because there's not that much of a demand for these high-end games. Now, that may change in the next few years. If the Scorpio does take off, developers would absolutely follow suit and put money where they think they can reap money back in. But that hasn't been a thing for so long, and companies don't like taking big risks. What I'm saying is if you establish the market with this idea in mind, it may be different today.
The one thing. I mean, let's go back to the old consoles. I mean, the Sega Saturn was actually released before the PlayStation.
Yeah,
and it officially had the market quite a little bit longer than the PlayStation. But because the PlayStation was so easy to develop for
and cheaper
to create, games with. It was obviously it ended up.
I mean the price of the box itself.
And it was cheaper. So the thing is, I think when if it came even released in the same order that it was released in, and everybody knew what the cell processor did, and off the bat with that $600 price point, I still think it wouldn't have. I think it still would have done the same thing, even if people knew what it did.
Yeah, I agree. Nothing because the power wouldn't have helped it at all.
And I'll let me also add that the cell architecture did also help with the Xbox as well, because they were because remember who was making chips for all those fucking consoles? IBM.
Yeah, IBM was, yeah.
IBM, there were IBM chips inside of all of them. The only difference was that the cell architecture was, they were using a specific cell architecture within the PlayStation. But that didn't mean that when they developed the chip for Microsoft, they didn't use a lot of the shit that they learned on the cell shit.
Wait, which one? Remember, the 360 came out before the PS3.
No, but the thing is that the cell chip existed a lot longer than the actual consoles did.
Yeah.
So a lot, and they were also developing the same. They were all three consoles were getting IBM chips inside of them.
Yeah, but there were completely different architectures though.
They've even said that.
Damn, Brett, you're right, bro. Shit.
Vaping, man, vaping.
I thought I was on mute.
Nope.
There is even interviews with the folks from IBM saying, yeah, we used a bunch of shit that we use on the cell architecture to improve performance on the Xbox.
Yeah, but they were completely different architectures.
But
let me finish though.
They were still using. Listen, there's an interview with these guys that said it. So don't, I'm not just making shit up.
I didn't say that.
So I mean, obviously,
Throwdown, man. Let's go.
Obviously, yes, there are two different architectures, but there were still things that the other processor could benefit from them. The things that they learned from the cell processor, which they could improve upon the other ones.
But improve the development
improve the way the processor works. It's like, okay, this one works this way. So what if we did this to improve that? To make this more accessible, stuff like that. But they said they were using a lot of cell tech on the other consoles, as far as developing the CPUs.
But cell tech's pretty broad. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, you're saying that the processor had the Power PC from the 360 had a cell.
It had a lot in common with what was inside of the PlayStation.
But the Power PC architecture was developed in 1991, right? And I think the cell was developed in the early 2000s, maybe late 90s. So if anything, the cell was learning from Power PC, if that was the case that you're saying, because one was obviously out for way longer than the other one before.
By the way, Delta Boy says the only reason they use cell was because of bootlegging from the gen before. There was absolutely nothing similar between the cell and the 360 chip.
Yeah, they're completely different architectures.
They're
the way you program for one of them is completely different to the other one, because from
what this interview with them said, they used a lot of the things that they wrote off of the cell to improve on what was inside of the Xbox.
To improve,
but again.
Maybe, yeah, but I'm saying the way you structure something, the way you construct something, it's completely different. You might have some tips and pointers on how to improve certain things, yeah, but probably like you can get better sorting algorithms, and you can have them work on both things, and one can be faster, and you can learn from that. But I'm saying the way developers were developing for the issue they were having with the PS3 was that the cell architecture was completely different to Power PC. That's why they didn't fully understand and didn't fully utilize how to program it efficiently and how to get its full benefits. So I forgot what the question was. No, I mean we
would have changed.
Yeah, it wouldn't have changed because we got Naughty Dog, Sony Santa Monica, Guerrilla. They all develop exclusively for the PS3 platform, and they got good games out of it. But it wasn't anything. I mean, they're obviously a step ahead of like the best the 360 games, graphics wise and power wise, but it nothing significant to make it more like greater or dominant or whatever that phrase was.
Yeah, I agree. It's not about the power. It's really just about ease of use, and definitely, like, even if it was the one that they knew, just developing would have just been. It still wouldn't have affected anything. I mean, that price point would have killed a lot of people. People would have still said, "Hey, man, I'm going to buy an Xbox."
You think so, though?
Yeah, definitely. Easily, yeah.
Okay, let me remind you guys. This was a time where we were measuring bit for bit which system was more powerful, and
it doesn't matter if it
came out for. Well, no, hold on. Different games came out for different systems. The 16-bit Genesis womped up on the NES, and then the Super Nintendo came out and womped up on the Genesis because they had the ability to put out different levels of games. And at that point, you did measure, you fucking cared about that. The N64 was a 64-bit system. It was in the title. We cared about power. We stopped caring about power around the time of the cell processor.
Obviously, we cared about power, but we also we're not talking about the developers in this sort of situation.
No, yeah, I am.
Two different
Ninja Turtles, the two different Shadowrun games. You used to get developers.
The two different Ninja Turtles games were developed by two different studios.
Well, yeah, but you're still getting the same.
That's the way most of them went.
Yeah, so you don't think if the architecture would have been fully realized from the beginning, you don't think that power discrepancy wouldn't have been enough to bring exclusives to the cell processor?
I think that the price point of the console would have still hurt it.
Look, I'm just gonna cut right to it. Manny, would you have bought the system day one at $600 if it was more powerful?
Hell no. I
wouldn't, because again, it would still have the same games that came out in 2006, and those games were bullshit. You know, I would not pay $600 for any fucking console. I don't care how powerful it is. You know, so that whole thing gets thrown out the window.
Yeah,
for me,
you couldn't play. The lair could have looked as amazing as it could have. You couldn't control that shit with your own thumbsticks.
Yeah, come on, man. Exactly. It would have been the same.
Do they have a layaway plan? Do they have a layaway plan?
No, they did. See, the thing is that it would have still had a lot of the inherent issues. Not, you know, like me, obviously.
PSN still would have been bullshit. You know.
Yeah, they would have had a really bullshit PSN. A lot of the same things we would have still probably had.
Yeah, the only difference would be
I would have bought it in a fucking heartbeat.
Really? Even with the same bitch ass games?
You know, I remember, and I wouldn't have said it. I'm not saying it would have been the right choice, but I remember at the time, you know, I loved my original Xbox because of how much more powerful it was than its counterpart. You got games on the original Xbox that you couldn't get on their PlayStation equivalent. You just couldn't design the same fucking games for them. So if you make that power gap wide enough, I feel like that draws in developers, and that therefore draws in an audience. They're only recently have
$600 though, man. That's too much.
Again, you know what? Like that original Xbox had a comparable price to the original PlayStation. The only thing that helped out the PlayStation there is that they already had a stranglehold on the market.
So, yeah, but because it had superior games, in my opinion.
It did have very nice looking games, and I think if the situation wasn't disbalanced as it was, I think it would have had a lot more chance. I think if the Xbox may have come out around the time of the Sega Saturn, if the Sega Saturn did not exist, I think it would have had a lot better of a chance. But the thing is that already by the time the PlayStation, by the time the Xbox, came walking through the door, PlayStation was already shooting for the moon.
Yeah.
So yeah, but at the same time, like the fact that they didn't die in that environment, I think lends testament to the fact obviously the only thing that helped them limp through that first generation was the fact that they were a superior machine.
Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to get the perfect, the close to PC version of Max Payne, you picked up the Xbox version. You didn't touch that PlayStation version. But I think the thing is that in that situation, it was like because the Xbox at the time, it was easy to get into the Xbox.
But that's okay. That's
for developers to get onto the time.
So there was a time when they would have a nicer version of even a third-party game. Max Payne looked better on the original Xbox than it did on the PlayStation.
But the thing is that
they didn't dumb down the Xbox version to meet the PlayStation standard.
They did it less than they did the PlayStation.
That didn't become a thing until they had difficulty developing for the cell architecture, in my opinion. Like, that's about the time when game parity and system parity and developing for the lowest common denominator reared its ugly head. I'm not sure if you take that difficulty for the cell processor out and you still had a wide power gap, I don't know that game parity would have ever become the norm.
Well, that's a different conversation, though.
Yeah, and going back to the question, it says, would the PS3 have been more dominant if the cell processor wasn't fully utilized? We were going over the scenario, Brett, where you were saying that the Xbox was clearly superior and more powerful than the PS2, but obviously didn't do a dent on the PS2. So
exactly,
if the PS3 was,
it didn't do a dent on the PS2, but it carved out a market share. It was there was never a chance that it was going to take on the entrenched market base and win. The fact that it survived into the next generation and was as successful as it was speaks to me. Like, you can't just say like, oh well, they didn't beat Sony. Nobody was going to beat Sony. Nobody was going to be. I mean,
right.
So you can't really say that the Xbox's power didn't make a difference. It was the difference between the system living and the system dying, I think.
We don't know that for sure, though. But go ahead, Carlos. What were you gonna say?
Yeah, but like the PS3 carved out its own niche of like powerful whatever enthusiasts too. Like,
Yeah, despite the fact that it was $600,
so long though.
No, but here's the thing: even when it was $600, it was still not a lot, but it was still selling. But obviously, what happened when you dropped the price? More people went in. You know?
Yeah, but my point is, like, they didn't unlock like the full potential of that fucking chip until the tail end of that console cycle. If you're telling me you would have had an Uncharted like level of game at the beginning of that console's life cycle when it was competing with everything else, like that would have been such a huge discrepancy between the parity of games that I think it might have changed things. You're talking about something that you're and I know this goes, you know, end of a life cycle, beginning of a life cycle. The games are always better at the end because they figured out how to utilize things. But if you're talking about an end of the life cycle PS3 versus a beginning of the life cycle 360 game, the differences would be
but again,
staggering.
you could have the best looking version of Lair on Earth. It would still be Lair. It wouldn't matter. That's what I'm trying to tell you. You know, I'm not saying, oh, they would have Uncharted. I'm still gonna have to assume that the same exact games that came out on launch would still be there. They would just be pretty, but they would still be the same shitty fucking games. That's
on launch, maybe, but don't you think that extra power would draw extra developer attention if there was that? And that's what I'm saying.
The system is
if it was that much more powerful, and it was clear that there was a market base for people that wanted that good of games, I think it would have attracted more developer attention, and you would have seen even better games for the PlayStation 3.
So you think this is gonna? So you, by the logic, you think the Scorpio is gonna be successful?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say.
No, because we've already established parity and lowest common denominator to be a thing, and I don't think if the Scorpio came out and it was just like the difference between a Scorpio game and, you know, a PS Pro game were so staggering that it were the equivalent of a generational leap, yes, I do absolutely think people would rush in droves to the
even
Scorpio.
at $600.
Even at $600, yeah.
All right, we have to agree to disagree. That price difference, I don't give a fuck how powerful that system is. I wouldn't buy that shit, you know, and I could afford it easily. Hell
but
no.
You
Here's
get
the
a good
thing.
PC for that price.
That's what I'm saying. Just invest in get a better graphics card at that point.
Now tell me this: if Scorpio came out and said, we are so powerful that we have a system that's introducing brand new game mechanics that no other that Sony just can't do,
then they're gonna piss off the guys on Xbox One who can't play. Fucking games.
I know. No, let's say that we live in this a magic fairy world where they find a way to, you know, utilize the architecture of their system so good that they say, you know what, every game that comes out on an Xbox console, fully destructible environments, fully interactive characters, no load screens. I mean, a noticeable
VR
difference.
with no headset.
You know that's not gonna happen though, man.
No,
like,
but if it did, are you telling me that wouldn't change shit?
not for me. Like, drop that fucking price and we could talk. You know.
I think at that point it comes down to the software titles. I know there's certain games that I'm really into, and if that had all the specs and everything that you imagine in this fantasy world, I probably would. I'd be like, oh my God, this is changing my life. I can put my hand in a TV.
Destructible environments and
destructible environments. And then somebody's hand comes out, and then like the TV or the console squirts something at my face to make me feel like I'm part of it. Damn right, I go for it. I'm like, oh my God. You know, it's, let's say I'm getting an argument with a character, and it's like, oh, Mass Effect 8. And it's like, say fuck you. I say fuck you. And all of a sudden this little spit hits me in my eye. I'm like, I love this game. You just gotta fill it with water or something in the back.
I mean, because, and don't correct me if I'm wrong, we are talking about processor power and not graphics processing, right?
Well, wasn't that what the cell processor was all about, though? The graphics and all that?
The cell processor was an integrated processor that
was used as
not only handled graphics, but it also handled, you know, calculations as well.
Okay,
APU.
so yeah, I'm saying that if you had the full power of the cell processor, you would be able to put in full gameplay features that you couldn't have on an Xbox. Like, it's the same thing I bitch about now. Like, you can take the Scorpio and put the biggest fucking GPU in the thing until you actually beef up the processor. You can't do anything new in games. You can't bring me new systems. You can't bring me fully destructible environments because that is processor stuff. So if you're telling me you had unlocked the full power of the cell processor, so you could bring me full game modes and mechanics that were not replicatable on the system, I don't care how long Xbox had been out, and I don't care how much cheaper it was. You're telling me I can get an exclusive experience, not one that looks prettier, but an exclusive experience on the PlayStation. That there is a fucking game changer.
And you would be willing to pay all that money for it,
dude? A lot of people do. People buy PCs all the time for.
But these are console gamers. Games. Console gamers are a different breed.
Console gamers.
Yeah, I know console gamers who have bought a PC for specific games.
Yeah, well, I'm talking about
how many fucking PCs do you think Star Citizen is going to sell when it finally releases?
I don't know, man. I don't think the mass audiences are going to go in droves to build their beast PCs for that game. I'm just
dude. As soon as you show somebody like, dude, I have a full shooter in this, plus I can seamlessly get in my ship without a loading screen, fly across, fight other people, board their ships, have gunfights with them. How's your Gears of War going, or Gears of War match going? Like, dude, that's a completely different fucking thing. Like, it's there. I can load into a small arena and shoot somebody 3 times, or I can get to a spaceship and traverse like an Eve, style kind of thing where it's just this giant open space and I can run. If it was everything No Man's Sky promised, like there's no comparing. One's going to be a clearly superior game, and if you want that clearly superior gaming experience, you're going to pay the money for it, and a lot of fucking people will.
So that happened with Crysis, right?
Dude, tell that to everybody who owns a Titan. Say
but again, console guys, Brett, console guys, dude. Come on, dude.
Dude, I know video cards that cost more than $600, and there's a market for them.
Yeah, of course. PC guys like that shit. We're talking about console guys, dude. Console guys are going to try to spend all that kind of money.
Listen. Console guys will totally complain enough about a console being $500.
Yeah.
You think that if somebody said $600 with that original PlayStation with the lineup that they had, they would jump on top of that?
So we're talking about the same Xbox audience, right? Like the same, like rabid cultish.
Oh no! See, now we're talking about the Scorpio. No, Scorpio's gonna fucking sell. We already know that these guys are hardcore. But we're talking about the PS3. We're talking about those guys. But
there were PlayStation fanboys back in those days.
They bought them too. But again, we're talking about mass audiences, not just the hardcore elite guys, not just guys like us.
If the early, dude, Breath of the Wild is a perfect example. If the early adopters can show that there is something different, then the rest of the market audience will follow. Like it's not the trailer videos, and it's not the fucking marketing, and it's not the hype. It's the fact that motherfuckers went out and played this Breath of the Wild game and told people like me, dude, it's like Ocarina of Time again. And the second I heard that, I played it and I enjoy the shit out of it. Now I'm evangelizing it. Like you show the early adopters are the ones that lead the pack. And I think that if you would have something to show and again, because we're talking about what if they had taken full advantage. We're saying what if they had taken full advantage and they had this amazing game with this new experience.
Yeah, so you're adding an addendum to it. Like what if they took advantage and had a game for it? That wasn't part of the question.
No. What do you mean? How else would they take full advantage of it if not by making a game for it?
No, you could like I said, you could make Lair look better than it did.
No, because we're talking about a specific console, the PS3. We know what games are getting developed by it. We're just saying if the developers,
you're saying that none of these games were held back by the limitations on the processor, the thing that runs. I
don't think so.
No, the processor wasn't the limitation. It was it was people's ability to work with to understand the processor and develop for the processor.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So you're saying like if they fully understood that, like they wouldn't have added different game mechanics. They would have just made things look prettier.
Still would have had to deal with the fucking
At the end of the day, it's a PS3. We know what the end game for the PS3 was. We know what the best case scenario for the
we
PS3
know what
was.
they developed for what was available at the time. We don't know what would have happened in a perfect world where they had access to superior technology.
Well, there's no such thing as a perfect world. This is
you can't just assume that all the same games would have come out just a little prettier.
You have to assume that though.
No, you don't, because again, this comes to the difference between a CPU and a GPU. The fact that the cell processor doubles as a CPU makes all the difference. The only thing that Scorpio is doing is adding to the GPU and overclocking their CPU a little bit. Even if Microsoft hadn't come out and said, we're not going to make Scorpio exclusive games, if they made Scorpio exclusive games, the only thing they could do, the only thing they have the possibility to do is look prettier. But when you're talking about taking full advantage of PlayStation 3's cell technology, you're talking about adding processing power, which adds the ability to
So
do
you're saying
different
so you're saying
things.
like Resistance Fall of Man would have been a better game, not just graphically, but overall. That's
It
what
may
you're
have.
saying, right?
It would have had better AI. It would have had destructible environments. It
Okay.
would have had less loading screens and seamless integration between the places that did.
But again,
Like
the price point would keep a lot of people away. It would keep me away. You know,
at the end of the day, you're not getting more computational power. The CPU got it when the PS3 launches, the same CPU that is on the PS3s right now. Like that wouldn't change. Like the only thing that changes in the scenario that the question provides is that people's understandings of developing for that CPU is fully utilized. So Layer is still in development. The developers only difference is that developers know how to develop for the system better. That's the only difference. That's the question. That's the basis of the question.
Yep.
So that's why I said it's not. I don't think it's going to be way more dominant. Like it's going to be successful, and it was successful. The PS3 sold tremendously well, so like over 80 million units. So. Is it going to sell 100 million units? Because
of that,
the Layer developers knew how to develop for Layer since day one.
and Resistance Fall of Man,
Resistance, so
I'm looking at the launch
assuming they're just going to have prettier versions of the same crappy games. Like,
okay, that's exactly what I'm assuming.
So okay,
we have to base ourselves into. Okay, we're already going into fantasy land, saying the processor could have been, like tapped. So let's at least stick to some kind of reality. That is the launch lineup. We can't just go, they would have had Uncharted.
But not only that, but Brett is mentioning like where it's going to have better AI, you're going to have better destructible environments. We're not getting this shit on the PS4 right now, and this is way more powerful than the Cell.
CPU is still fucking janky. And we had games with destructible environments towards the end of the generation when people had learned to fully exploit all of the CPU, but they couldn't launch with a game like Red Faction Guerrilla because they didn't understand how to utilize the CPU hard enough. So what if you're telling me is like if they had understood from day one, they could have had Red Faction Guerrilla on PlayStation, but it wouldn't have been able to be on Xbox because
was that even in development at that point?
No.
It doesn't change the fact. It doesn't change the fact that Red Faction Guerrilla, as good as the game was, freaking bankrupt THQ.
Yeah, that is true.
I can't argue with that.
Yeah, that is true. All right, man, let's wrap.
Well, no, wait, it wasn't Guerrilla. It was the shitty one that came after it.
Yeah, there was another Red Faction.
Yeah, that one was the fucked up one.
That one was awful, and they took out the destructible environments.
Yeah, they simplified the shit out of it. Anyway, let's start wrapping this up here. So let's do this contest, man. I want to announce the winner. Our boy, Sergio, he won a copy of this. He got it really fast. So, Manny, what was the game that you put out there?
That was Brawl Brothers on the Super Nintendo.
Yeah, but we also had we also had a runner-up. Techno Fabulous got it too, so I'm gonna send him a PSN card because he's a big fan. I don't know if you can see it, but no, you can't see it now with the angles. It's weird, but I have Sergio's picture he drew for me when we met him at E3. Cool dude, fellow Latino, cool motherfucker. He texts me sometimes. Oh yeah, Manny, what was the other game that you were proposing to use?
Oh, it was the first one, Rival Turf.
Okay, yeah, because Freddie, that's what he gets. He gets Rival Turf.
He see, the thing is that the hilarious thing about Rival Turf, there's 3 different games in that series, and they're all named different things. So the first one was called Rival Turf. The second one was called Brawl Brothers, and then there was a third one that I didn't even play.
That's crazy.
In Japan, they were all named the same thing. I forgot what it was like. It wasn't called Bare Knuckle. That was Streets of Rage. Right?
Yeah, Bare Knuckle, yeah.
I think it was called Rising Beat or something like that. I think that's what the games were called. So when they brought them to the United States, they brought them out, and they're like, okay, let's just change the name. And the funny thing about Rival Turf is that it had like the cover didn't even have the characters on it. It just had some random like little black dude and like some like a mean looking white dude standing next to each other with their fists up. I'm like, what, really? They're not even in the game.
I love those.
So, but yeah, those are I love those two games, Rival Turf and Brawl Brothers, because it was just, you know, I that's one, again, you know, we're going back to the beginning of our show, which is the beat 'em up, and I feel like the beat 'em up genre is a little bit lost. I kind of miss those. I kind of miss the Final Fights and the stuff like that. You know,
I still play those every.
I was playing Final Fight over the weekend. I sent a video of it.
Yeah, if you guys saw the latest Tony's Takes, I'm using Streets of Rage in that shit.
Well, I like the way you preempted that, because you got Streets of Rage running, and then you put like a little thing of the first level music in that game.
Because usually I take out the music completely from those. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna leave that shit in there.
Yeah.
Who was it? I think it was there was some website I posted. They got sued by Nintendo, $10,000 for some audio.
I feel like you should, Tony, you should do more like Tony's Takes of like games in different scopes. Like not only the you know, obviously the big popular games like Horizon and, you know, Gears of War and all that stuff, but every so often throw a friggin' like old Sega game, put like Panzer Dragon in there.
Yeah, I did that one other time with another Tony's Take where I just threw Mega Man 2 in there just because. But at the same time, I don't know if this affects it or not. Every time I did that, the videos didn't do as well. So who knows?
Well, I mean, the Streets of Rage one did well.
It did a little lower than normal ones, you know. But then again, it could be the subject too. I'm gonna try this, because you know the Scorpio news is going to be crazy, right? I'm going to do a Tony's Take on that. I'm going to use some old ass game, and I'm going to see what happens. You know,
yeah, what would you use?
Scorpio cool. Info, like, am I missing something on this? Like, we all knew it's coming. Like,
no. It's just because remember, Microsoft originally said they're going to talk about Scorpio at E3. Now they're actually going to talk about it this week. Which again, I say it's a smart.
It's just the fact that they moved it forward, and everybody's excited. Oh, well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. I believe this will be a good thing, because it now just means
it's a great thing. That means E3 is going to be nothing but games.
It's going to be nothing but games. It's not going to be just sitting there listening to specs. But then again, I feel like
Microsoft has games to a bunch of games to show at E3.
Yeah, I know. That's the other thing. Is like, what the fuck do they have? I know this year they have another Forza, obviously. Voodoo Vince is coming. Other than that, I don't know.
Maybe this means they have a bunch of stuff that they've been keeping quiet.
They got secrets.
And I can believe that. So. Like, if you're talking about Microsoft's been keeping secrets, I could believe it's that they've been not being real vocal, because everybody saw how well Fallout did when it announced how shortly before it released.
Yeah,
like they say, Fallout is coming. It's coming this year, and everybody went ape shit and said that never happens anymore. It got so much press for that kind of thing. I think that maybe, just maybe, people have been paying attention and realizing not to announce their games 5 fucking years before they come out, because it ruins their own hype.
Yeah.
Shadow War is doing it too, so that's looks like it's pretty good.
Yeah, Shadow War, the first Xbox Scorpio game announced. You know, very interesting. But again, those games will still be on the Xbox One too. You know, but it'll be interesting, you know. Okay, that's it. So thank you for watching and listening. Leave us your questions in the comment section of this episode here on YouTube or on the Coalition, and we'll answer them on next week's show. Subscribe to Throwdown on SoundCloud, iTunes, and YouTube. Also on Facebook and Twitter at Throwdown Show. Links are located in the description below. Once again, I was your host, Tony Polanco, and tonight joined by Emilio Lopez.
See you later, guys.
Carlos Romero.
Attack on Titan Season 2 started this week, man. Go watch it.
Oh, shit.
Where?
Crunchyroll. Or wherever you watch your
right now, son. Damn. All right. Brett Murdoch.
It's some real party people.
And Adam Vale.
Prison Break is back this week. The Hardy Boys are back in WWE and won the tag belts, and Undertaker officially retired tonight.
Oh, shit.
Oh,
shit.
From WrestleMania?
At WrestleMania, he lost his match. He took his jacket off, his gloves. He put his hat. He left it all in the ring. Wave goodbye. Off.
Oh well.
You know, it would have been cooler. They should have really made him go out the cool way. Like he should have gotten to a fucking coffin and then just coffin explodes. Just that's it.
Well, he went into the ring. He went into the ramp. It was like a hole. Like he went to hell. Like he just lifted up his hand. All this smoke came up, and he just like went into the ground and was gone.
It's like I no longer exist.
Exactly. It was like he was no longer there. But the Hardys coming out in a ladder match. It was crazy. The place went nuts, and then they won.
Cool. All right, people. We'll see you next time. Later.
Later.
Peace.
Pop a pimple.
Deuces.